What's up, everybody? Welcome to the GameOverGreggy show. I'm one of your hosts, Greg Miller, alongside the producer/seducer, Nick Scarpino.
Hello, Greg.
Hey, how are you?
I'm well. We just had a really good conversation during the pre-show about Teen Wolf.
Possibly one of my favorites, because I love Teen Wolf, and I will talk to anybody about Teen Wolf all the time. We had a really good pre-show about it.
It's just so fascinating going back and watching all those old 80s movies.
Yeah.
Well, from one...
With the modern lens.
With modern lens, modern social politics, and being 38 years old and not a dumb kid.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, there's a lot more complexities to these relationships between these kids than I thought there was.
I cannot agree with you on Mick, but sure, there is some complexity.
I'm just saying, there's Mick and the Johnny Lawrence examples are two that you
What's Johnny Lawrence? I missed this.
Johnny Lawrence is Karate Kid. And Karate Kid's the exact same thing, right? Like, I think it was Patton Oswalt had a great thing that he did.
Did you talk about it on the pre-show?
What's that?
Did you talk about it on the pre-show, or are you bringing him in?
No, I'm just bringing this into the mix now.
Okay.
Patton Oswalt had a great, he wrote a great article and then read it on a radio show. You guys can find that on YouTube if you want. Where basically he links all of Johnny Zapka, I think it was William Zapka, the guy that played Johnny, links all of his roles together through logic.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's the same character, but he got so embarrassed by Daniel LaRusso that he had to change his name and go over there, and that's like where it's Better Off Dead. And then he goes to, eventually, he's like, he just wanted to get away. And all he wanted to do was get away to go to college. But the through line is that there's some olive-skinned asshole kid who's shorter than him who keeps stealing his girlfriend. And he goes, and all he wanted to do is go to college and be on the swim team. And then not only did this same olive-skinned kid steal his girlfriend, but his fucking dad came too and beat him in a diving contest.
The triple Indy. The triple Indy. You got to have that. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're an audio listener, it's just us.
Yeah.
No Tim today. Tim off still. I think
He's in Japan now, right?
It was his final day in Bali, so he might be in the air to Japan at this point. Maybe still sleeping in Bali. I can't keep it all straight.
Doing a meet and greet on Saturday in Tokyo, I think, outside
Don't
of...
even bother telling him. No one's going to see this in time.
All right, fair
No,
point.
you know what I mean?
Oh, no, but the pre-show people...
Exactly. If you're wondering what the pre-show is, remember, if you support us on patreon.com/kindoffunny for $1, you get a pre-show and a post-show, and you get to watch us record this show live. And of course, if you go to patreon.com/kindoffunny, you can get the video version of it each and every Friday that has the pre and post show as well. But it's just us now, baby.
Yeah, it is nice. What is...
Oh, so right before we went live, the pre-show was going long. It was like 30 minutes. Cool Greg threw this up. Cool Greg, throw up the whole article. KTVU.com reports 6 months of jail awaits trick-or-treaters over 12 in Virginia town. This is Larry D. Curtis
for people
of the
listening,
KUTV staff.
The top image they're using for this is absolutely perfect for that headline. It is a pumpkin with a jack-o'-lantern eating a pumpkin, and it's all rotting away. And it's terrifying.
Give me a scroll down there, Cool Greg. Thank you. Happy Halloween, but not if you're a teen. In parts of Virginia, anyone 13 or older who goes trick-or-treating can be sent to jail for up to 6 months, according to HRScene.com. And no matter what age, trick-or-treaters after 8 p.m. trick-or-treating after 8 p.m. can land you in the clink for up to 30 days. Fines range from $25 to $100. While Chesapeake, Virginia's code is pretty strict, the city isn't alone. In many areas, going door-to-door, ringing or knocking and expecting a treat for those over 12 is a criminal offense. Newport allows the activity through the 7th grade or at 12-year-old person. But after that, anyone engaging in such behavior is guilty of a Class 4 misdemeanor, the same as many communities in the area. It also states, quote, no accompanying parent or guardian shall wear a mask of any type, perhaps in case they get tempted to trick-or-treat. Portsmouth allows it from 5 to 8, 12 and younger. Halloween is Wednesday. Get fucked, everybody.
No, I gotta be honest. I understand where this comes from.
You're a monster.
Because when I was a kid, like when we wanted to go out and still experience it, but we didn't we couldn't. There was no real outlet for us to do that. So you'd go trick or treating, but you wouldn't dress up, and then you'd inevitably get into some sort of trouble. You know what I mean? Like, but dude, let me put it this way: if you're 16 years old and you're still going out for candy trick or treating, you gotta.
16, you're not doing trick or treating.
That's what. But I think that's what they're trying to get across.
They're not doing it 16.
It's like 12, 13. Like no one's going out and being like, "Hey, kid, you look a little old for your age. Are you the one kid in junior high that got armpit hair early, or are you
show me your ID? Show me
Yeah, first off, I don't think I had an ID when I was a kid. How the fuck are they gonna card these people?
Exactly,
It's kids don't have driver's licenses.
It's just to put the fear of God in them.
Yeah,
it's when you lie to people.
This is totally not enforceable. 100%.
They're just looking for older kids, you think? That'll give you.
Yeah, that's it. I think
parents should be able to wear masks, though. Come on. If I'm going to shoot the place up, I'm not going to walk around with my kid also in a costume. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't think it's more about that. I think it's more about like you're wearing a mask, and if you kidnap a child, they can't tell who you are.
Is that what it's about? You think?
No, I just made that up.
No, I don't. It's weird.
I think it's just. I really do think it's just to de-incentivize asshole teenagers from like aching people's houses and shit like that, from being out and being a part of it.
Sure.
Plus, let's be honest. Let the kids be the kids.
Let the kids be the kids.
But I feel like 12 is a little too young for the cutoff there. I feel 14 is a good age to tell kids to stop trick or treating.
I'll accept that.
You know, because you're a freshman in high school at that point.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember when I stopped trick or treating.
Probably junior high for me. I used to go out with Stu all the time, but we just smoke cigarettes.
Oh.
I'm like, Mom, we're gonna go trick or treating, and she's like, you're not dressed in costumes. And I'm like, I know. She's like, and you don't have anything to put candy in.
Where's
like,
your pillowcase?
And I was like, all right, well, I'm just gonna stuff a couple pieces in my pocket, and don't worry if I smell like cigarette smoke.
Stu is a bad influence on you.
I was a bad influence on Stu.
Yeah?
Yeah. I was the one that got Stu smoking. I got my buddy Ryan smoking. My brother was a bad influence on me. He smoked originally, and I was like, that looks cool. I want to do that.
Yeah.
And then just holding the cigarettes when you were a kid was like the coolest fucking thing.
Of course.
And you'd smell them, and you'd have them. It was like your little secret.
They smell like
a cool
raisins.
thing. Oh, I love them.
Yeah.
That smell of tobacco is still the best.
It's a cool smell.
But, I'm glad I don't smoke anymore.
I wish smoking was good for you because it looks cool.
Well, it just, we used to be in the 50s, but they fucked it up.
Yeah,
we all had to be
they went in there and they messed with
each other.
They messed with it, you know what I mean?
It does look cool, though, doesn't it?
It does look really cool, you know what I mean?
Don't
I want to
smoke.
know when the last time I trick-or-treated was. When did we fall out of the trick-or-treating game?
Officially trick-or-treating probably before junior high, I would imagine.
Before junior high?
Yeah, I probably the last time my parents took me out to trick-or-treat was like well before
Well, yeah,
junior
your
high.
parents taking you out, that's a different ball of wax.
But I feel like I got together, I remember getting together 6th grade maybe with some of the neighborhood kids and going one last time. The problem is my neighborhood had a bunch of kids in it.
Yeah.
And then we all grew up, and then there were no more kids left. So nobody did the thing where it was like my street. There was one amazing year when I was like, I must have been like 10 or 11, maybe even a little younger, maybe like 9 or 10.
Yeah.
Where my the house down the street had a big haunted house. Like they decked the whole thing out, so you walked in and it went all the way through the garage to the end, and then had a thing, and it was like the epicenter. It turned the entire street into like the place everyone in the surrounding neighborhoods came to. So you walked out and it looked like that scene from Halloween where all the kids are trick-or-treating, and it was just like very lively, and everyone, it was just this weird confluence of like everyone had decorated their houses. Yeah. And so kids were going all over the place, and you walked all the way down, and it took you like 2 hours to get back up because you were stopping and never seen everyone. To the house, it was so cool. And then I never had that experience again.
That sucks. Yeah, I think that was always one of my disappointments of living in unincorporated Glen Ellen was the fact that since it was unincorporated, everybody had giant yards. So there weren't that many houses to a block, and there was no sidewalk, and it was like you wandered around and like it was a huge neighborhood, but it didn't have that unified, hey, we're all in this for Halloween together doing something crazy. I had good, obviously trick-or-treating, good stuff, but it was just like I wanted it to be more like houses next to each other. And then you get to San Francisco here, and nobody fucking does it.
Well, that's the thing. So I was talking to one of my friends who was a kid, and he was like, if you guys want to come out with us, we're gonna put the kid in the car. We're all dressing up. I think the kid's dressing up a hot dog, and the parents are being mustard and ketchup.
Who's this?
Eric.
Okay.
Yeah. And they were like, if you want to spend some time with our kid and like go up, I'm like, I would love to. First off, like this sounds awesome, but what are you guys gonna do? They're like, well, we have to get out of the city. Yeah. So they're driving up to a neighborhood in Marin, parking, and taking him around that. But it is a neighborhood that is known for and invites people to bring kids. Okay. So that like it's just the place that people go to trick or treat, bigger houses.
Gotcha. Full size candy bars?
Yeah. First off, no. The full size candy bars, you're asking for trouble.
Hey man.
Bite size candy bars. And I'm not talking like half candy bars. No, not fun size. Bite size is how you go.
Oh, you want like the Snickers that's just a cube?
Anything between the 2 to 1 inches is good. But you know how there's always the half bars? Yeah. It's the worst. The worst. And people that give...
You don't like fun size?
People who give full-size candy bars at Halloween, what are you trying to prove?
That they're loaded and they have a Sam's Club card. That's what they're trying to prove.
You better than me, Sam's Club?
Yeah.
Bullshit.
I only had it once.
But I will give a shout out to the full Reese's Peanut Butter Cup.
Oh, sure. Hell yeah.
The singles.
The singles? Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. I did have it one year where I've loved Halloween since birth. Some say I came out of my mother with a jack-o'-lantern on my head.
Naturally.
There was
your mom's chagrin.
There was one.
Get in there.
I'll tell you what, actually, too. You know what? Hold on.
Oh,
I gotta get the phone out.
If you show me a picture of your birth right now, I would be very, very impressed.
I'm sure you would be. Okay, I'm not on Do Not Disturb. I had a phone call with my mother. Okay. We're taking a detour here.
Yeah, let's go.
Had a phone call with my mother at the grocery store.
Is it too early to do this?
No, not at all. It's you and me. We're partying.
Yeah, baby.
It's gonna be. I won't lie to you guys. Strap in for one of the best GameOverGreggy shows all the time.
It's gonna be better than anything.
I was talking to my mom at the grocery store the other day, and she didn't catch one of the Poe episodes live.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so she watched it later on demand on patreon.com, as you can. And she had a bone to pick with you and Tim or whatever, but mainly when I think it was you said,
what did I say?
We were talking some story about my growing up, my mom, and you're like, yeah, your mom's scary. And Tim was like, yeah, like intimidating is what you meant it as when we were telling some story.
Oh, yeah.
And mom was like, oh, that's nice to hear. And I'm like, you can call and yell at Nick whenever you want on the show.
I have been around your mother multiple times.
Yeah, that's true.
She is an amazing human being. I can't tell you how grateful we are to have her support.
Sure.
She's awesome. She comes out here. She's totally game to do anything.
Sure.
She's got a great sense of humor when it comes to like, us calling her big old Jamie Kennedy and all that stuff. Fantastic. But I have seen her smile exactly twice. And that is, she is, first off, first off, I'm intimidated by moms because I'm a mama's boy. So you have to understand, like, I hold parents still in that reverential light.
Yeah, your mom's an intimidating mom too.
My mom's scary as fuck. Yeah. Sometimes my mom will start texting me and I'm like, I gotta burn the phone. I can't take this. No, it's your mom. Your mom is a very serious person with a hilarious sense of humor, but it's made better and funnier because she holds herself she carries herself so well.
Yeah.
And she is a little intimidating. I'm not gonna lie. She's one of those people that like says, she puts off the air of I'm not going to be easily impressed by your shenanigans.
Sure, yeah.
And as a person who made in high school and college, who made a point out of trying to charm my significant other's mothers so that they would like me and not think that I was just a
You look at my
bag.
mom, you're like, tough nut to crack.
I'm like, she's not going for this. No matter what I pull out of the Scarpino charm box.
You show up with the flowers to date her daughter, and my mom opens the door, and you just leave.
Yeah.
You're like, not going to win this battle.
The record scratches, and I'm like, I made a terrible mistake.
Plenty other fish in the sea.
She actually reminds me a lot of, in high school, I dated a girl whose mom was very, very, very like, had that same like level of confidence.
Sure.
And I was just like, I don't have the tools to make this person like me.
Yeah.
Because, it was always like, parents just knew better. And so when you were in high school and you were so serious about someone, they always had it in the back of their brain that they were like, kid,
this kid's not gonna last.
First off,
just a kid.
This shit ain't gonna last. Yeah. Like you're both gonna go to college. You're not going to the same school.
Yeah.
Like, let me just suffer through this dipshit kid's like dumb, narrow-minded perspective on life. Let me try to keep him from, and my daughter from making terrible mistakes together, and like we'll get them all on the track. And then so they just have that look in their face of like, just don't derail my daughter's life.
I have to imagine looking back at the girls I dated or took to dances or whatever, what their parents. If I could have, it's one of those things.
You though.
It's they leave the house or like we leave the house to go to homecoming or whatever, and the door closes. I would love to be able to like time travel now, and like, and they answer like, hey, I know, like somehow not make them freak out that I'm time traveling, but be like. First impression is that fucking kid. What'd you think? Oh. You know what I mean? And like, what did you think of this pudgy fucking dough ball rolling up with his horrible glasses and bad shellacked hair?
Oh God!
To talk to you about taking your daughter to homecoming.
They must have been just so. They must have hated me. Actually, a lot of the girls that I didn't date that many girls in high school, but out of all of them, I think there was only one mother that didn't like me, and the dads liked me too for the most part. Because then the dads looked at me and they were like, "He's pretty not intimidating,"
Oh, sure,
I wasn't a football player or anything like that.
Yeah,
it wasn't like I was hyper aggressive or whatever.
That came later.
I'm still waiting. For that to come. But yeah, I don't know. It was always interesting watching like people's reactions to me. But there was this one girl who I dated. Her mom just did not like me.
Yeah,
she just didn't like me. And I was like, "You're
never won her over?"
No, I was like, "You're never gonna like." Her dad was super cool and like really nice guy, but I think the mom was the one that was like, I'm going to be the role in this relationship that is skeptical of everything that comes near my daughter. The dad was like, we were like homies.
Sure.
But yeah, I don't know. Imagine me dating your daughter. We've come for your daughter, Chuck.
Beetlejuice.
Yeah, Beetlejuice.
Nice.
Excellent line.
Nice.
Yeah.
One thing
Nostalgia.
before I do the intro, I loved Halloween coming out of the womb. My favorite holiday. I knew that early on. I remember one year we went trick or I'm a little kid, so we go trick or treating early before the sun goes down. Then it was nighttime, and I remember one year my mom went to go, I don't know, make something in the kitchen or whatever, and so I was answering the door for trick or treaters, and these older kids showed up.
Yeah,
and we'll say I'm 5 to 7. These kids, 13 or 14. You know what I mean? Old enough. They understand what's going on over there, and what I applauded them then, and I applaud them now. Is that it must have been 3 of them, and they got to the door and saw me excited to give out candy, and they totally played me like a fiddle, where they went to the back of the line. Like there was 3 or 4 of them lined up, and so the first one would go back to the back of the line and like knock off his hat and come up and get more candy, and they all did it. And finally my mom came out, she's like, how is this still? Oh, wait a second! Now, like my mom immediately
figured it out,
sussed out what was happening, and scared them off the front porch.
Yeah, you thought you were.
But I was like, you know what, Mom? They are in the candy. They knew what they were up to. That was a good move on their part.
It was one of those things where you're like, you went candy crazy. when you go trick or treating.
Sure. Well, it's just such a brilliant idea. Free candy from strangers. Yeah, I want that.
What could go wrong?
Of course, I want that.
And now it's so funny because
knocking on random people's dark doorways. Yes.
Oh yeah, and when you were a kid, you'd look and be like, clearly these people aren't into Halloween. There's not one decoration up. Let's knock on their door anyway.
Hey man, I'm getting every fucking house in the block.
It's called trick or treat.
All right.
So you don't have a treat for me. You're going to get tricked,
motherfucker.
You're going to get tricked. But it's funny now because you as all my friends are starting to become parents and I'm seeing life through their eyes, I'm just like, they're like horrified by this concept of Halloween.
Oh, yeah?
As well. Yeah, I mean, they're just like, I was talking to Eric and I was like, what do you want to, like, are you just...
How old is 2, 3?
I think he's like 2 or 3, yeah. Okay. I think he's 2 actually. No, I think 2-ish.
Doesn't matter.
Enough to walk around and understand what's going on.
Sure.
But
driving yet?
What's that?
Driving yet?
I mean, I gave him the keys, but he just wouldn't get in.
Drunk.
But no, it's funny because I'm like, do you give him the whole bag? Because we were kids, it was my brother, me, whatever asshole friends my brother was hanging out with. Yeah. We'd all go out, get a shit ton of candy, and just
come back.
I remember
dump it on the floor, lay on your belly, go through it, watch some horror movie that's on TV.
And my mom would just be like, they're not making noise or breaking things. Let them eat whatever they want. At no point was it ever discussed. And then all the candy got taken and put in like a bowl, and then that got put in the cupboard, and then you would just eat that until it was done.
Yeah.
But now people are like, oh no, people don't do that anymore. I'm like, what do you mean? And they go, kids go out, they get as much candy as they want to get, but then they're only allowed to have a few pieces. And I'm like, what do you do with the rest of it? And they're like, oh, we throw it away.
Fuck these people.
And I go, you fucking monsters.
Tell them,
like,
I know where they tell them this in a non-threatening way the first part. I know where they live.
Yeah. Okay.
And
maybe
I will gladly
like
come pick that candy up and bring it to Kind of Funny.
Try it again.
I'll gladly come to your house, which I know where it is and if you lock your doors or not, and I'll bring the candy to Kind of Funny.
Okay. The inclusion of the locking the doors makes it sound like you're threatening them a little bit. Just a skosh.
If you don't give me the candy, I'll give out your address on the show.
Do you think there's ever going to be a time in your life where you look at a bowl of tiny little candies and think, like, happiness? Like, do you think that's ever going to be...
Isn't that now?
No, I just mean, like, do you think you'll ever look at it differently? Because right now, even when I see... I forget whose house I was at the other day, but they had the plastic jack-o'-lantern.
Oh, God, yeah.
The one that was not very well designed because inevitably you would scrape the top of your hands off on the lid that
rim?
was very, very sharp
every
time. But when I was a kid, I was like, that's happiness to me, right?
Yeah, totally.
And even to this day, you walk in any offices or whatever,
we should
and
get one.
just
We need to get one. Joey, put that on the shopping
I think we have one. It might have been our house. Yeah, Dan Reichert.
It is filled with pogs. It is filled with pogs.
But yeah, I love that.
Now I see what I loved about the jack-o'-lantern. Well, that's the 2 things I love about the plastic jack-o'-lantern.
One.
Number 1, of course, being a kid and having it.
Swing
but then
it,
also,
hit people on the head.
swinging it, doing that. 1B on this conversation was you're the same age bracket as me.
Yeah.
Do you remember when Happy Meals did the Happy Meals that came in the plastic jack-o'-lantern heads as well? And then for the rest of people's lives, those things were in your house as well.
No, see,
people trick-or-treating with McDonald's jack-o'-lanterns.
No, because I got my parents, for whatever reason, we were a Taco Bell family.
Sure.
So whenever we wanted fast food, it was very seldom that we went to McDonald's. We had a Carl's Jr. very close driving distance away from my house where I grew up. And then, of course, my family, I've talked about this before, we have a lineage of working at Taco Bells. So the Taco Bell, my aunt and my uncle both worked at the same Taco Bell. I don't think it's there anymore when they were young, when they were like teenagers.
Did they meet there?
No, brothers and sisters.
My apologies.
So my aunt, yeah.
I totally had I had it queued up with hot.
I understand.
They met there.
To be fair,
their brother and sister.
They were good-looking people.
Okay.
Still good-looking family. We age well. But no, so I never really was exposed too much to the Happy Meal phenomenon.
I just think you would have seen them. It doesn't matter.
Sure.
Number 2, when we went to college, and we drank a little beverage called Paint Can. When October rolled around, you'd get the Paint Halloween jack-o'-lantern, and the bottom, of course, has a hole in it, which you would plug up with gum. And then you had the paint can going. Yeah. If you didn't know, ladies and gentlemen, this is the GameOverGreggy show each and every week. 4, sometimes 2. Best friends gather on this table, each bringing a random topic discussion for your amusement. If you like that, head over to patreon.com/kindafunny, where you can support Kinda Funny and get each and every episode of the GameOverGreggy show early. How early? It's up to you. You can watch it as we record it live for $1, or you can wait till Friday when we post the early access MP3 and the video, including the pre and post show when we do as well. If you don't want to give us any bucks, no big deal. You can get the podcast 1 week later. That's right. A whole week, Friday, MP3, video, no pre or post show, no big deal. Thank you for your support, no matter how you give it.
Every time you do that, how early? Because for the first few times you did that, you threw to me.
First 3 dozen times.
And I was like, I'm ready to go. And you've never thrown to me again?
I know. Well, now I know you want it. I'll give it to you.
I don't want it. It'd just be nice to be considered every
Let's
once
go
in a
through
while.
housekeeping.
Today,
we're brought to you by patreon.com/kindafunny.
Woo!
If you didn't know, the October fan mail tier is, we haven't taken it yet, going to be a print photo of us as Ghostbusters.
Yeah, it's going to be a blast.
We're such idiots.
Now, the big question is, who in this office will be Slimer? Will it be Portillo?
No, Portillo's got his own proton pack and jumpsuit. He's going to be a Ghostbuster.
Don't ruin the surprise.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we were in process of elimination.
Yeah, we're not.
Oh, okay.
We're just having some fun.
Okay.
I'm excited about this.
Me too. We'll sign him.
I'll say this episode of the GameOverGreggy show is quickly turning into the Halloween episode. And you know what? I don't care. Because we don't. I'm going to tell you this right now. You and I are probably the most outspoken advocates for Halloween, and we fail every year. We do not celebrate Halloween enough in this office. It should be a whole month of it.
I agree.
You should watch. There should be a TV with scary movies on in the background.
Sure.
We should have a place in the office that you hear the stupid howl. Ooh, whenever anything happens, you go in. It's like a haunted house. I love Halloween so much. It's one of
I
the
didn't know
only
you loved
reasons-
Halloween this much.
Oh, I love it. It's my second favorite holiday, and I love it because it starts the holiday season off, and then it's bookended with my favorite holiday, which is my birthday.
Groundhog's Day.
No, January 13th is my birthday.
Gotcha.
It's great. I feel like it's awesome that everyone celebrates that day as my birthday.
Sure, of course.
It's super cool.
How can they forget?
Me and Naomi, same day, kind of pissed off about that. She needs to move it.
Naomi Kyle?
Yeah.
Well, I heard you ran her out of San Francisco about this. I heard.
I sure did. I was like,
Yeah.
you got to go live in my old town, Irvine. If you want to be me, you got to start at my roots.
It's
Live
true.
in Irvine.
It's true. He did say that, and that's
Yeah.
how that all happened. Also today, the Patreon producer, DJ Kento.
Yep.
Thank you for your support.
Kento been really supporting out a lot there. I want to give another shout out to him too because he's been gifting subs. You know, it was
Yes,
Subtober.
over on Twitch.
And just gifting subs left and right. He must have spent at least, I just ballparking at $87,000.
Holy shit.
Yeah, just giving people subs. So thanks, DJ. I appreciate that.
And then, of course, all these Patreon names who supported us in the month of September. Thank you.
In the arms of
I thought we were going to go, and do you remember the 21st of September?
Oh, you missed the dance party we had on the 21st night of, or 21st day of September. We cut the pre-show music on the morning show. We just played that. It was a good time with that
great.
battle.
That sounds a lot of fun. I'm sad I wasn't invited to that.
We have
You're on vacation.
I noticed I'm not invited to anything Joey does.
Like what?
Brunches, Fortnite
didn't-
parties.
You don't play Fortnite anymore, so
Nick and I are playing it at EGLX, so
We
we
are.
need to get unrusty. All right.
Hey, what season are they on now? Like
I didn't do the
18?
inviting for brunch, so
Huh?
I didn't do the inviting for brunch, so
I was being I'm not talking about anything specific. I just know you go to brunch a lot. This was not a
amazing-
real thing.
What's
This
amazing
not a
is
real thing.
you straight up called her out without knowing.
She had
She's like,
answers.
I didn't do the invites for the
Like,
brunch. You're like, what brunch?
Is there a real
Is there
brunch?
a brunch that I didn't get
It is
invited
from
to?
this weekend. I was playing Assassin's Creed. I wasn't going to fucking move from the couch. Don't worry about it. That Goldfarb tries to get me to go do stuff all the time. Topic number 1, because we have 2 today.
Yeah.
Your
Looking
high
at you.
school reunion.
Yes, I've been talking about going to this, excited, a little nervous, a little
20
anxious.
years.
20-year high school reunion, and it was awesome.
Yeah?
It was so great.
Was
Yeah.
it like a comedy? It looked like Michael Rosenbaum's movie. We can't remember the name of it.
It was a very great combination of zaniness and nostalgia that I did not expect, but I
Yeah.
had hoped for.
Because what I noticed, you went away.
Mm-hmm.
I knew you were leaving, and then immediately the Nick at Night on the Instagram starts. I'm
Yeah.
getting a whole bunch
Had
of
to bring
Nick
that back.
updates here on the on your Instagram stories. It's you making pizzas with the fam. They look delicious, of course. It's you and Stu going to some weird arcade.
Yeah.
I'm like, I think they've been drinking. It was then it was like your ID, like start where you want to start, but this seemed to have all the setups of Nick Scarpino going back to his small town, doing all this stuff.
This was that and more.
Yeah.
So I'll start from the beginning. I'll walk you guys through this. And I'll be honest, like I didn't realize until I got through the actual event that I had a little anxiety about this.
Really?
Because, yeah, it was weird. I didn't go to my 10-year. And if I'm being
move.
honest, I pretended like it didn't matter to me, but I think I was just like, I'm not really mentally prepared. Maybe I'm not in a good space. Maybe I'm not proud of where I'm at. I don't know. But for whatever reason, I just shied away from going to my 10-year. Stu went because Stu has no fears in life whatsoever.
Dude, Stu clearly is like that social butterfly.
He is a social butterfly. He's just a lovely, lovely person.
You know, my wife, Genevieve St. Ange, love of my life. She, pointed out early on in her time around us that Cool Greg a new soul.
Yeah.
So amazed by all of the things in the world. You know what I mean? Like he can't believe it.
He's like the second angel, put him in a body.
Stu, not nearly as new a soul as Cool Greg,
older.
but still, no, I mean like, I'm not way old. I think just he has a little bit on Cool Greg, where he's still super excited about everything.
Oh, yeah.
He's not a beat down, weary old man like you and me.
I have never in my life seen Stu get angry at anything.
Wow.
Ever. Period ever. Like he is just the most even keeled. Like I've never seen him not just like happy go lucky and having a great time.
Sure.
I'm sure there are times of frustration, but
He hides that from you.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
So I going in, I was like, hey, do you and your wife want to come over? My mom's gonna make pizza. I'm gonna throw it out. We're gonna make like I'll roll it out and throw the dough and all that stuff, and I'll make the pizzas for you. Why don't you guys come over on Friday night? We'll catch up before, because Stu's a very important person to me, and I knew he was gonna be in town.
He doesn't live around there anymore?
No, he lives over in Orange County, which is only like 40 minutes away.
Gotcha.
But, on a Friday, it can take a little while to get there.
Okay.
So he ended up coming over for pizza. I rolled out. Of course, there was 4 of us, so we had to make 5 pizzas naturally. And you saw the size of them, so quite a lot of pizza.
This is dough
left
from
over.
scratch?
My mom doesn't make it from scratch anymore. No, she gets it from a deli.
Gotcha.
She'll go and just buy the pizza dough raw, and then she lets it rise or prove, as the Brits say.
Okay.
And so when I got there, it was ready to go. And then Stu came over. His wife was a little sick, so she stayed in.
She doesn't like you?
No, she loves me. I'm awesome.
Okay.
Yeah. But she was like, I'm a little sick and I want to just stay in and conserve it for tomorrow night.
Here's the first question I have about all these things happening, right?
Yeah.
When you go back home, not a lot, but enough.
Enough, yeah.
Yeah. So does this visit feel different? Does it feel like you're like, does it feel like it looks like in the movies when people go back like, oh, I haven't been here forever, I'm in my own room, and oh man,
not my room, because I stay there Christmases and Thanksgivings and stuff that. So I'm the house never really changed for me. The walls change color, of course, because my mom likes to paint. She likes to clean things up. My dad loves to do the artwork.
Big Lou's got to be doing something.
Yeah, Big Lou. So the house has changed, but when I walk in, it still feels very familiar.
Yeah.
What was crazy is, so Stu came over, and Stu got a new car.
Of course,
I don't know if you check at
Wheelie Cool
Vids or Wheelie I think it's Wheelie _ videos on anyway.
Joey, can I get a search on what fucking Stu's handle?
Well,
is?
Wheelie _cool.
Yeah, Wheelie _cool. You can check out and see. He's very into cars, and Stu does, obviously, as a side job. He has about, I think, 30,000 or 40,000 subscribers on Wheelie Cool videos on YouTube. What he does is he's really into cool cars. Yeah. And he just got one of his dream cars the other day. He's fortunate enough to have, I believe it's 2006 Porsche 911 Carrera S, which is a car that weighs about as much as me and has 355 horsepower. Ooh-wee. And he was like, I'll let you drive it. And I was like, I'll make you pizza if you let me drive it. So we ate pizza. Thankfully, did not drink anything. And he's like, why don't we go out in the car? We'll take a ride in the car while the pizzas are cooking, and come back, eat, and then we'll go get some coffee and like just tear up the town or whatever.
Yeah.
Go out, and he's like, he drives me around in this thing. Now, Stu is a very, very good driver. He does track days. He knows how to drive these cars very, very well.
This is his life. I remember he did a GameOverGreggy show with us where he talked about it.
Yeah, he did. This car is fast as shit.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I'm excited. I'm going to drive a Porsche for the first time in my entire life. And then he pulled over, and he opens his door, and I was like, oh, shit, this is happening. I have to drive this car now. It was terrifying.
I'm sure.
And I'll say, after driving it around for approximately 20 minutes, I'm like, that's good. I don't need that much car.
Yeah, right.
I thought it was going to be so cool that I'm like, I'm going to buy a Porsche one day, and I'm going to fantasize about that. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not man enough to drive this car.
Too much pickup?
It's too much. It's fast. Yeah. It's just scary fast.
Yeah.
Scary fast.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have a turbo in it or supercharged, so it doesn't have that like wind up where you feel like the car is about to gun. It just goes. It is almost a linear, like a straight line of like you're just in the car in front of you in a couple seconds. But so we decide. I'm like, hey, we should go out for a cup of coffee, hang out. Let's keep catching up, because Stu was there with my folks and we were all talking. But it's a different dynamic when it's just he and I.
Of course, talking
about some business ventures that he's got going on, hanging out. Go to our old stomping ground, which is like the first Starbucks that was ever in Riverside.
Yeah,
hanging out there, and that's where we found the Japanese arcade, which I had no idea existed there. And we were trying to win a Pikachu the entire time. And the best we could do was a tiny little Pikachu that I then gave away to one of the best friends who was following my Instagram stories.
Friend,
was
yeah,
like,
I saw this, right?
I live 5 seconds away from here, rode over on the scooter that he's had since he was 3. And said,
what did Stu take away from that when this kid runs into this Japanese arcade to see
loves it? Stu loves everything we do. So then
I think these are stories, obviously, so they're gone, which sucks. So obviously that just
they're 100% there. I put them on my Instagram.
Oh, great. Go watch the one, because my favorite for sure was the electrical cord. They had one of the they had a yellow extension cord coming out of the ceiling powering a table. And I mean, not like it was like they moved the like cardboard square. They put a hole in the cardboard square to bring it down to the wall or whatever. And you guys are like, that's not up to code.
No. Yeah, that was completely that was a fun night. And then I was like, hey, I've totally forgot, because the person who had organized the reunion organized a whole weekend of events.
Oh, nice.
So it was homecoming, and there was a homecoming game. And so I was like, Stu, what we should do is drive over to the old high school and see if there's anyone left at the homecoming. It was like 9 o'clock at this point, and I think the game had been over for a while at that point.
Sure.
But he was like, yeah, fuck it, let's go.
People drinking beers at the 50-yard line.
I was like, hey, man, let's see what, like, I'm sure someone's doing something. And we pulled into the parking lot, and there's like 3 cars there. I was like, shit, it is done. But I hadn't been back to the high school, my old high school. Like, I hadn't stepped foot on it in probably 20 years.
Oh, wow.
Maybe like 15, because I think I went to a couple functions for band or something like that in and amongst my college years. Walk in, first off, they have a full stadium now. Like ticket booth, the whole 9 yards, lights, all that stuff. I was like, that's pretty cool. We used to do all the marching band stuff at the football games at UC Riverside. We used to use their field. They don't use that anymore.
Or to play?
To play.
Okay.
Like that's where they'd play games.
Gotcha.
And then I guess they invested in the infrastructure. Get there, the security guards are like, hey guys, what's going on? And
you're like, nothing, pig. Bah, bah, bah.
No, I did I started talking, and then they were like, all right, whatever. And we walked away, and Stu's like, you totally did the old guy thing where you started over-explaining what was happening because you were nervous. Dude, and these guys were like, it's too fucking late. Just go. Just do whatever.
That's not even the old guy thing. That's the Nick Scarpino thing.
That is the Nick Scarpino thing.
That's not a nervous thing necessarily. That's very much how you are.
Yeah. But one of the guys caught up with us and was like, hey guys, just so you know, like, we don't care that you're here. You're clearly 80-year-old men. But we are going to lock these gates. And if you don't want to have to climb over one of them, you're probably going to have to leave.
Okay.
And as we were walking out, I was like, oh, it's a bummer we don't see anyone here. And as we were walking out, I was like, let's go by the old band room. And we're walking by the band room, and the door opens, and my old band director walks out.
No shit.
And I was like, motherfucker, like, what is up?
Did he know you? Did he recognize you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, he's like, hey, he kind of looked at me, he's like, great. Like,
I was Scarpino
and Stu were here.
Yeah.
And
was Stu in band?
Yeah, Stu was the drumline captain. So Stu played drums.
Gotcha.
And in fact, if you go to my Instagram, you can see him playing our old marching band cadence because my buddy Scott brought some drums there because he's a band director as well. And so it was amazing to like be like, oh, it'd be awesome to catch up with my band director and then sit and have an hour-long conversation where, you know, it's that like, hey, we're just all catching up and it's totally nostalgic. And and he was like, well, I have to go into the band room is connected to the theater. He's like, I got to go in the theater to lock up to like set the alarm. And I was like, dude, can I come with you? Yeah. And he was like, sure, if you want, I don't care. And I was like, I can't explain how emotional it was to walk back into the theater. I didn't think to ask to go into the band room, but that had been redone, so I don't know that I'd recognize it as much. Sure. But walking into the theater and seeing a set for the play they were doing there and like realizing that time had gone on for 20 years since I'd been there, and kids were having those experiences now that I had when I was their age 20 years ago, and like seeing it and like noticing the seats had been redone and there was new paint, and then he was like, yeah, you know, they're going to knock this down.
No
like,
shit,
yeah,
really?
He's like, this is probably the last year. Like there might be a year or two left, but they're thinking about tearing this whole building down. And so I took a picture of it. So I was like, I gotta have a picture
funny.
of
Look
it.
at you.
Yeah.
Look at you.
And I was like, you know, I invited him out the next night. I was like, I'm sure there's going to be an after party, so if you're available. And he kind of was like, yeah, I'll try. And
that's
he
enough.
Didn't end up coming out. But and then we tore away in Stu's Porsche. As he was like locking up, we're like, we'll see you later. Like asshole kids. Went home. And then, the next day, I had my pop take me over to Stu's house. And then we were going to Uber. And Stu's mom's like, don't Uber. I'll take you to the reunion. And I was like,
so it's you, Stu, his wife, and his mom. That's awesome.
And I was like, this is perfect. We have to do this. And
did she please tell me she sells like a shitty station wagon?
No, she has a brand new like Subaru. They're doing pretty well for themselves now.
Hey, station wagon's a fine vehicle.
Yeah, I mean, they used to have like, his dad used to drive a Ford Bronco that looked exactly like OJ's.
Oh, nice.
It was hilarious. But yes, we're getting out. I was like, bye, Mom. She's like, bye, guys. Love you. We're like, love you back. It was really fun.
That's funny.
And then walking up, I was like,
what did you wear to this?
Shirt
and tie and a blazer?
I was a bit underdressed, I'll tell you.
Just a kind of funny t-shirt?
No, I wore nicer jeans and just a nicer button-down, like short sleeve shirt because it's Riverside, so it was pretty warm outside. But some people dressed up a little bit more than me. I wish I dressed a little bit better, but I think it was fine because there were people that just kind of showed up and whatever, and then it was a pretty casual event. But it was weird because what I had originally, I don't know what my expectation was. My expectations for this ranged from everyone's going to freak out that I'm there because,
we haven't
seen me in forever. And like in my brain, I'm like, oh, maybe people are keeping up with what I do and they find that interesting and that's going to be cool for them to like talk to me about it. Ranging from that to nobody's going to recognize me. No one's going to remember who I am.
And sorry, leading into this to set the stage for somebody who hasn't kept up on everything. It was just at a random bar, right?
So yeah, I think the common misconception. Hey Joe, can you grab me a like a Red Bull or something?
Kind more water too.
Like sugar-free Red Bull if we have them. If not, water's fine. Yeah, I'll do
Thank you, Joey.
Sorry, the fan's drying me out a little.
Joey, what did you spill on your shirt?
We don't.
How's this happen to you every day?
Joey's shirt always ends up. It starts off one color and ends up camo. No, the common misconception evidently is that I think we were misled because high schools don't officially throw these. This is not like the high school has a budget and goes, okay, everyone, this year it's the class of 1998. It's 20-year anniversary. What are we doing? This was an unsanctioned John W. North High event. And it was just put together by some of my friends who just decided to self-appoint themselves as the reunion committee.
Somebody's got to do it,
because they're the only ones that give a shit to actually see everyone.
Yeah.
So it ended up being the first thing that I was taken aback by was I was like, oh wait, this is not a full JW North Huskies class of 1998 900 people reunion. This is just my friends. Like these
really?
Yeah, these are just the people who I was like either closely associated with or loosely friends with or some of their friends, but all of us were in the same circles. So there were a few people that I was like, oh, I kind of know you. But everyone else I was like, oh, this is weird. Like this is like stepping back into my senior class and hanging out
the same
in the little
space
in theater where we used to hang out with. So because what had happened was the people that put it together, of course, maybe consciously or subconsciously, just gravitated toward all the people they were friends with on Facebook.
Yeah.
And that just ended up being like, of course you're not going to...
So how many people are we talking then?
It was probably about 70.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah, maybe something like that. And of course I walk up and two of my really good friends that I keep in contact with are behind the table with all the name tags on it.
Yeah.
And they're like, who are you? And I'm like, fuck you. And we were a little late, so I popped my thing, saw that, and I was like, this is fucking crazy.
Yeah, I saw you put up the Instagram post of your ID.
Yeah.
Or your, I guess, name badge, but it's a photo of your senior year, I assume.
That was my senior year yearbook photo.
And your caption was, people don't recognize me. Is that true?
That's true.
That's awesome.
So I had quite a few people. And it was weird because you, of course, have to be like honest with people and be like, I don't really remember you. And then everyone was just kind of looking at each other's name tags to kind of jog their memory because you can't be expected to remember everyone from that period.
You're the shadow boxer.
But a lot of people looked at mine and were like, oh my God, kind of, there it is. Well, can I bother you to get one glass of ice? Okay, you're awesome. So yeah, there were quite a few people who were like, did we go to high school? Like they thought I was someone's significant other. And then they looked at my badge like, oh, wow, like you look totally different. And I heard from a number of people, which is very flattering and very much made me feel good, where they were like, usually people gain weight after high school. You decided to do the opposite.
Yeah.
And I was like very flattered by that. And that was really cool. But the thing that really took me aback was I had it in my brain because of our world, because we're so
successful.
Well, we're just amazing.
Good looking.
We're just awesome at everything. No, because we're so imbued and like surrounded by people in our community that are constantly giving us feedback. You kind of feel like you feel like everyone should know about what you're doing.
Sure.
And I was so surprised and kind of pleasantly surprised that when I started having conversations with people about what they'd done over the last 20 years, no one really knew what I was doing.
Yeah.
They're like, what are you up to these days? And I was like, I'm a podcaster and I run a small network with some of my friends. And they're like, oh, that sounds fun.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is kind of interesting. And then, of course, you just go back.
Do you know Mark Maron?
Yeah. They're like, oh, I mean, and some people in the industry kind of knew me, and some people who are a little bit more social media savvy, kind of
had an idea that you were doing something weird and knew a guy named Johnny Ace.
Yeah. I forget that I don't post on Facebook.
Yeah.
And everyone lives on Facebook.
Yeah.
Very few people in that circle are really on Twitter or Instagram. Yeah. And so I'm like, oh, I should probably start syndicating this stuff out to Instagram if I want everyone else to know what's going on. Because you kind of have to be your own cheerleader. But very, very quickly, I walked up and I was just like so happy to see every single person.
Yeah.
Every single person. People that even I barely knew in high school. I was like, that's fucking great. Like we're all alive and we're all doing well. And this is so amazing. And like the event was lovely. It was three hours long. And then we had an after party afterward. I managed to, in that time, talk everyone's ear off.
Yeah, of course.
And see what happened in their lives. People are doing very, very well. It was funny because I think it was someone here was like, are you doing good compared to everyone? And I'm like, no, because I forgot my class was, not only do they were all the AP kids, we were also the IB kids. We were the International Baccalaureate kids.
What's that even mean?
Advanced placement was you would take courses that were almost college level courses and they would count for more points.
Oh, but you call it international.
So there's two. There's that which allowed you to have, an A was worth 5 points instead of 4.
Okay.
So you could technically get a 4.5, I think was like the best grade.
We had honors classes where you get above a 4.
Yeah, that's that. But we also had the International Baccalaureate program, which was, and I think I'm remembering this correctly, but essentially another program on top of AP where you could take harder classes. They were equal to AP classes, but they counted toward college credit. And then they also counted toward like basically an AP program for like international. So if you wanted to go to like Oxford, it would get you into that a little bit more. And you had to like test, you had to do IB tests and like AP tests at the end. So like you have to do these extra things to get, it's all stuff that I failed miserably at and I shouldn't have done.
Sure.
But yeah, long story short is I'm like,
you're all super smart.
They're like, what are you doing? And I was like, I'm a podcaster. I do this cool thing. I get to work with my friends every day. It's not really like work, but I swear to God, like,
what do you do? And you're like, what do you do?
What do you do? I'm a pediatric surgeon and my husband is a finance manager for Google. Yeah. And I'm like, all right. I'm like, okay, cool. Hey, what are you up to these days? Doctor. Oh, okay. What about you? Lawyer. Okay, well, shit. There goes that weird fantasy of being the superstar. Yeah. But it was fun. It was actually, it was just very much more down to earth than I thought it was going to be.
That's awesome.
And it was capped nicely by obviously being able to hang out with Stu and my friend Scott and seeing my friend Maury and some of the guys that I was really close with. And they all came and I've kept up with them, but it's always lovely to be able to, get back to them and spend some time with them.
Well, it's how often you get together as a group like that, right? Like in that, the whole point of it is to get together and reminisce and talk, and especially connect it to one thing, right? Like obviously, Poe's just on the shows and he was visiting, but like Poe I see a couple times a year, right? And I'll talk to here and there, but like to get me, Poe, a few other the backyard wrestling guys together, like that's where it gets super rare, right? Where it's like,
I mean, and that is exactly what happened, right? Yeah. Like I talked to one of the people that was there and she was like, she told me a story and I was like, I can't believe I forgot that. She goes, that we all went to prom together. And I was like, no, like I totally forgot. What had happened was one of my friends found out she didn't have a date. I guess it had fallen through. And she goes, he just came up and just decided, hey, I'm just going to ask her. Because I know she needs a date and like I don't have anyone to go with and I think it'd be really fun. And she goes, and you have no idea how much that meant to me because I was not going to go to prom. And then I got to go over to your house for like pre-dinner thing. I think we did, it might have been, I think it was like my junior, like when I was a senior, or maybe it was when I was a junior.
She's like, you threw dough. You're like,
no,
I just did
that
yesterday.
She's like, I'll never forget your mom made like lasagna and like we all went there and like we had a great time and then we all went in a limo together and I was like, oh my God, I totally forgot about that. You had lasagna
before prom?
Dude,
that's a heavy fucking meal.
Did you see the picture of me on my Instagram? I was not that. So that Nick Scarpino and this Greg Miller would have gotten along very well. Yeah. That Nick Scarpino was not afraid to put anything in his body.
Sure.
I'm like, you want to eat lasagna right now, drink, and then eat more lasagna? I'm game.
Well, you mean this Greg Miller now?
No, you're Greg Miller growing up.
We would have been friends. I would do that. I would never eat lasagna now and go out to a dance.
I totally would. No. So, and then of course we all ended up going to an after party. It was just at a bar nearby. And that's when another awesome thing happened. What's up?
I don't want to jump away from the story. I love that story of that woman coming up and telling you that. You know what I mean?
That was amazing.
Because that was, I mean, I feel like, I feel, and this sounds stupid, all of my great stories and all of my great material has been told, right? Like, and I feel like I've told the same stories 300 times a piece. And so like having Poe on here, right, where he was like, and then what's the stupidest thing Greg did, or the crazy thing Greg did, and he's bringing up shit I haven't even thought about, let alone what his perspective on it was, right? I forget that like Poe's mom didn't want him hanging out with me in the first grade, right? Like,
that's crazy.
And like the IOU story, I'm like, oh fuck, I haven't thought about that in years.
Yeah.
And so the people that have been, you've had a glancing contact with, you know what I mean, from a random prom or the kids in the theater classes and shit that I did, I don't even remember. I'd love to hear what their story what lens they have for me. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because they inevitably are going to remember stuff that you're like, you just haven't thought of in years, right? Maybe that moment that was just kind of a quick little thing in your brain was like very meaningful for them. And that's like I didn't really ever have beef with anyone in high school, and to the best of my knowledge, I don't think I ever like really mistreated anyone. So I didn't really have anxiety in that regard of like, I have like a score to settle with people or anything like that. But it was interesting, like to hear other people's like version of me when I was in high school, and have them like one other person was like, my mom always wanted me to date you. And I was like, really? She goes, yeah, for whatever reason, you made an impression on her when I met her one time, her mom one time. This is my friend that I was like, we never even had anything.
Sure.
Nor were we ever into each other. But she was like, yeah, my mom always wanted to date you. And even to this day, she goes, how's the Italian guy doing? And I was like, I'm like, how did I get across to your mom in the 5 seconds that I met her that I was Italian? Like, what the fuck was my spiel back in the day?
I mean, you're Nick Scarpino.
Yeah, I guess.
I'm sure you're giving off those vibes.
So there was that, and then of course,
after party,
we partied in that space for a while, and then Scott was kind enough to take some of the drums from his school and loan them to the cause, and so Stu and some of the guys,
the bar,
they set him up and they did the drum cadence, which was really, really fun and went over well.
So I was gonna say too, is everyone there, since they're your group of friends, are they all mostly band related in some way?
Mostly theater or band related, I would say.
Okay, because I was gonna say if I God forbid, went to my high school reunion and some fucking band dork brought out the drum. Like, are you fucking kidding me right now?
Well, what it was largely was the circle that was band, theater was probably the center. So a lot of people were in band and a lot of people from band were in theater. And then a lot of people in theater, well, obviously there was crossover there, but there was also a lot of crossover from the theater kid to the student council kids. Yeah. And so those were primarily a lot of the people that we had. Some cheerleaders in there a little bit that had come, but I don't remember there weren't like any football players. There were no sports people whatsoever at this thing. If there had been,
gotcha.
like, it would have been like, because we just didn't float in those circles.
100%. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, you're not you're not demonizing football. But I'm wasn't your friend group.
Trying to work it through in my head like why those people didn't show up. But I think it was just because at a certain point people lost contact or whatever. Sure. And again, it wasn't like people were going down the full Rolodex and being like, I'm going to look up.
This sounds very much like
I'm
going to invite this core, and then you invite your friends you're still in touch with, right? And that's how you get.
And it's spread, but it's spread organically.
Three. I can think of if I was doing this, right? I can see my core of friends, but then how it gets pretty quickly 3 removed in post bringing in a person that I know, but we weren't friends with. But I can see how he invited this girl who was friends with this guy who invited. Yeah, I get it.
And that was that. And like I said, there was only maybe like 5 or 6 people that it took me a second to kind of put them in place of what high school was, but I never really hung out with them.
Sure.
And there were some people that just straight up didn't know me. They were like, who the heck are you?
Yeah.
Like, you look kind of familiar, but we weren't there. But then, so we go to the after party, and then another very special thing happened. My theater director showed up. So what was so special for me about this was, obviously, she had retired, and I had called my brother, and I was like, we got to go to her retirement. But it ended up being, I think her retirement dinner was like the first E3. We were kind of funny. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I want to do this. I think it was like the weekend after, but I was like, I want to do this, but I want to leave this. It just might be a little too overwhelming with me, getting the company down there and doing all the stuff we're doing. So I kind of talked myself out of doing that. So I haven't seen her in a really long time. And she came by and I was like, I'm going to buy you a beer and I'm a little drunk, but I'm going to sit here and I'm going to tell you exactly what you meant to me.
Aww.
And I was like, you don't understand. Like, between her and my band director, they were probably the 2 most influential teachers I've ever had. Yeah. My band director was a little bit more stern and he was a little more straightforward. She was a little bit more like kind of a little bit more inspirational and a little bit more like, well, not everything's do or die. So I had 2 very strong influences creatively in my life, one of which was like held me very much accountable for myself, which is my band director, because he held me to a higher standard. And then I had our theater director who was really about making an environment where everyone could just be creative and like you could take some risks and you can get up there and you could perform, and everything was going to be okay in that space. Not to say she wasn't, a teacher and that would have those teachable learning moments with me. But so I was able to kind of like stand with her for a few minutes and be like, you don't understand like how important it was for what you did for us. And I am a person who now makes a life as an entertainer. And this is amazing. How many for audio listeners, if you think that there is something that just ripped, it was.
They Greg did not hear that
Greg
audio
just ripped
listeners.
the tags out of his shirt. But no, but it was a poignant.
So what happened? What was her reaction?
Oh, she was like, of course, like I loved you guys, and it was my pleasure, and that's what I did, and I really loved my job. And she had retired, but she still kind of does. She consults and stuff.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, she'll come in and like help out with other projects for like different schools, which is great because I think she needs to work forever. But yeah, it was really, really cool to be able to get the opportunity to, as an adult, be like, hey, you did something a long time ago that paid off in dividends for me. And I never got a chance to thank you, but as a person who can now articulate his feelings and his emotions, thank you.
Yeah.
And she was like, yeah, no problem. And I was like, I'm going to buy you a beer. And then I'd buy like 4 beers, and she's like, "You gotta stop buying me beers."
I don't drink beer.
I was drunk. Yeah, I was.
Please stop.
Yeah, it was fun. I hope I didn't embarrass myself, but I don't think I did. I think
that sounds great, fun. Dude. And that's important. I'm glad you got that moment.
Yeah, and then I hit, of course, the Nick Scarpino wall, where I was like, "Oh, I had way too much to drink, and I am not in a good place."
How many times did you tell Stu, get on my level?
Oh no! First off, you don't have to tell Stu to get on your level.
I want to party with Stu.
You would love to party with Stu. Stu, you're gonna have to fight to get on his level. But yeah, so me and a few friends just jumped in an Uber and they went to Del Taco, but I was so sick of that. You know how I have that thing where if I drink too much, I hit that point where it goes from happy drunk to you're going to throw up, and this is a hangover.
Yeah, you turn a corner.
Oh, I turn that corner,
especially because like you're no longer in drinking shape.
No,
you rarely drink, and so when you do that, let's get on your level. Something special's happening.
Yeah. To be fair though, I don't know what chemical was coursing through my veins at RTX, but I hit that shit hard for 3 days, and I was like, we're monstering through this. That did not happen here.
No.
And so the guys went to Del Taco, and I was like, I want Del Taco so bad right now, but if I even smell that, I'm throwing up in this Uber. Went home and then kicked myself because I looked at my flight info and it was 9 o'clock in the morning. I was like, what a fucking idiot. You're an idiot.
How late is it? Like 1 o'clock to midnight?
It's 2 o'clock by the time I get home. Yeah, it's easily. And I'm not going to sleep. I'm going to toss and turn and hope I don't throw up on my old bed.
That'd be awesome.
Oh, God. My mom would never let me
there
hear
you go,
that.
Elena.
But yeah, and then I got to spend, of course, some time with my folks, and that was always lovely.
Yeah.
Just that, like, it's always nice, and I'm always reminded, like, oh, I can, when you come down, it's probably better to come down for no reason and just spend the extra day with them when there's nothing going on.
Sure.
Because,
rather than the holiday rush.
Yeah, the holidays are always like a little stressful for everyone, and I think the temper levels are a little bit higher than they would be. Patience levels are a little lower.
Sure.
So that was cool. That was really fun.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it was really great.
So does this make you regret more not going to your 10-year?
Yeah, 100%.
Because was the 10-year the same idea?
The 10-year, and I remember correctly, wasn't a 10-year. I was reminded it was an 11-year, but it was a 10-year for the class of 1999. And so what had happened was, and this is why I'm bummed I didn't go to that, was that I had a lot of friends in 99. It ended up being a 10-year reunion for 3 different classes.
Oh.
So what they did was they opened it up on Facebook and said, hey, if you're class of, I think it was 3 different, for sure it was the class after us. So if you're class of 90, I was 98. They were like, if you're class of 98, 99, or 97, you can go.
Gotcha.
And so it was way more people. And I would have freaked out because I feel like that would have been crazy. That would have been cool. This one was a lot more intimate than I thought it was gonna be.
As you tell this story, I try to start thinking of high school in my class, and I can barely remember. I got a face here. What was Chris's last name? That kind of shit. If I was to go there and it was going to be a class above me and behind me, I'd be like, I don't know who you fuckers are.
You would think. And that was my biggest point of like, oh fuck, dude, I'm gonna get in so many. I was like, oh, I'm gonna walk in, I'm gonna get in so many conversations with people where I have to go, yeah, it was so great, and then walk away like, who was that guy?
Well, I'm talking about if there was the extra classes. Like
But that's what I thought for this class. I was like, oh, I'm not gonna remember anyone's name.
No, this year would be fine.
And I walked in and everyone's name, I just, because I do that weird thing with names sometimes where I'm like, oh god, I'm so worried I'm gonna forget your name that I forget your name.
Sure.
But this, I was just spouting off names left and right. I was like, oh my god, Kelly, Tara, like all these people, like. Fucking BJ, I'm like, what's going on, man? Like, it just came back, and it felt like I was in high school again, which was cool.
That's funny.
Yeah,
that's really funny. What was the divorce ratio like over
there? Everyone showed up with a significant other. A couple of my friends were on their second wife.
Okay.
A couple of them had yeah. So it wasn't bad. I didn't meet anyone that was actually divorced and single and ready to mingle.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Which was that's.
I feel like it's a 10-year thing. That seems like a good 10-year thing.
Because by the time you get to 20 years, the thing with 10 years is like people either are just starting to have kids or they're still figuring it out. Yeah. Because it's only 10 years later. It's only like 35.
Sure. Yeah.
Or no, not 35.
Not even
28.
No, 28. Yeah.
By the time you're 38, it's like life has dealt you the cards. That you're gonna, you know what I mean?
What an uplifting way to say that. Life has dealt you the cards you're getting.
At 38, you're like, I'm not gonna be like, there's no, cause there's no like surprises that are probably gonna be had at this thing.
Yeah.
Because most people have kids and are with their husbands and like, or they're me and they're just married and doing their thing. And so, yeah, it was a lot more, it wasn't like a party. It was more just like, it was just a really cool gathering.
Awesome.
Although I think someone did end up, I heard a story that someone someone ended up giving a blowjob to someone on the dance floor for the after party, and I was like, I didn't see that.
Jesus.
Yeah. I guess I got a little raunchy.
This year.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
How did you miss? You're so.
Oh, that was gone.
Fucking, you're partying. You're on the wrong level.
Because Stu was like, "Oh, you didn't see that?" I was like, "No." He's like, "Yeah, it was right after I sprayed the entire crowd down with a giant bottle of champagne." I was like,
the fuck?
"What the fuck, dude?" I'm like, "Where was this? Why didn't I see it?" He's like,
I don't know.
You left early."
He's like, you were talking to some waitress you thought was the old director.
I was like, "You're great. Are you gonna order another cocktail, sir?" Yeah, I don't know.
Have you seen that? It's old as shit now, but it's a drunk girl at a club. And the guy's filming her, and she's trying to order all these drinks, and she's like, "I want to spin it up," and he's like, "What? I want to spin it," and then finally it's just like, "This is the DJ booth. the bar's over there."
Yeah, we had a few people like that. That was fun.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you had such a good time.
It was fun.
That sounds like a really good time. It sounds again like a movie.
It is. I started kicking around ideas, obviously, for like, because my brain likes to go to like, oh, what would the story be about?
This one, yeah.
And obviously, the closest analog to it, aside from being a contract serial killer, is of course Grosse Point Blank, where he has to go back and he has this experience. But it's so funny because you could tell that whoever wrote that was like, I went to a reunion, and this is what it was like, where it was like I even had a friend pick me up in a car that was fast, and we drove around like assholes together, just like Jeremy Piven picked up John Cusack in Grosse Point Blank, and it was super fun. And I'm actually regretting now not having gone to the homecoming game. Like I wish I should have flown in earlier.
Did a lot of people do that?
Yeah, a lot of people did, and it would have been cool because the marching band played there, and I could have seen them one more time, which would have been cool. I guess I could go any year.
I was gonna say you can still see them. It's not like
but seeing them with my class, with the guys that I was in band with, and like being in the stands.
Well, do you not think there'll be a 30-year? When did reunions really stop?
I was like, oh, they don't. My parents just went to like their 50th.
Wow.
High school reunion or something like that.
Wow.
I mean, not quite as many people there as in the prior years,
Clock's
but you know. But no, I told them, I was like, listen, this is freaking awesome, and if you guys need any encouragement for this, I would totally do a 25-year. Like, we don't have to do this in every decade. Like, we should get together. And I was like, because the guys, the team that put it together, my friend Fabian, my friend Megan, like kudos to them, and all the people that helped out with it, did a great job of like doing what you need to do to get people committed, which is throw a ticketed event. And when they show up, have like open bar and food and make it a thing that people feel like this is special. And I was like, just so you know, though, you could just do a Facebook invite and we all show up at a bar. Like, you guys don't have to put yourself out for a 25. Like, I would just totally come down I'd fly down and just hang out with you guys for a night again. Like, that could be fun.
Yeah, no, that'd be one way to do it for sure.
But it's kind of nice that it's special in every 10 years.
Yeah, the milestones. I'm looking at my high school page here, and then I saw they were distinguished alumni, and I'm like, wait a second. It's like they gotta like induct you or some shit here. And then
we'll have to work on that.
These individuals must best exemplify the ideals and spirit of the school. Well, that's not going to be. And serve as role models. Hey, we make paint can in a pumpkin head.
We engender tolerance and
encouraging
one another and
I could
positivity on the
definitely
internet.
Spin why you should care about.
I'm telling you, pull up a name there. Let's talk. Let me tell you.
See, look, they're charging, right? My high school's charging you. Class 2003 reunion, $30.
See, your high school is putting it on, though.
Oh, yeah.
See, my high school doesn't do that. See, if I had that, I'd be like, oh, that's great.
See, they're doing it different places. Class of 2003 here is doing it at the Funway in Batavia.
What class? What year are you?
Oh, 01. 2001,
Dude,
baby.
you got to go to yours.
Fuck no. Never.
Why not?
I hate high school. I hated high school.
You might be surprised.
Nope. 35, dude. We got to give up that shit. I hate that crap of like, hey, I'll be surprised what changes.
But to be fair, like this was a very like good point in my life where I was like, wow, this was really cool. It was really cool to revisit and just celebrate, a moment in all of our lives and currently where we all are right now. So you might get more out of it. It might be very cathartic for you. You never know. You might come back and be like, you know what, guys, I'm more mellow now. I don't feel like screaming on camera anymore.
That's what it was. It's the inner rage of high school that's keeping me being the guy I am. No way. I get it. I mean, like, that's just the thing of like, why it's, when I talk about Mizzou, why I was talking about how it caught me so off guard that I would fall in love with that school and be so ride or die with it. It's just that I didn't have that in high school. Like, I didn't care about it, any of the teams or the sport, anything that like is like the high school. Hey, here's how we're fucking St. Francis High School. Yeah. You know what I mean? That wasn't who I was, and so to get to Mizzou and find all that and like the conversations you're having with your theater teacher, right? Like you figure that's what I got to do when I went back to make that Mizzou video with Tim and Microsoft, to sit there with Tom Moreover and be like, do you remember telling me this in this meeting and like how that like changed the course of my life and shit like that? Yeah. Whereas like fucking high school, I was like, all it would just be Festivus. It'd be the airing of grievances.
Well, maybe.
If it's these fucking teachers talking like, do you remember? Like, you were like fucking 25, 26 and you were our teacher and you were such an asshole.
Yeah.
You thought you knew everything. You were flirting with people. What are you doing? You were a monster. I hate you.
God,
hey, you. Do you remember when you tried to get me expelled? Fuck you. You know what I mean? I think over people.
I think you might think you do that, but it might actually be like,
I'm Greg.
That's fair.
I operate on a different plane.
I see you try to start fights in theaters because people are answering their phones.
Somebody has to. There have to be rules.
Let me pitch you on my idea for the movie.
Sure, please do.
This. Okay, I didn't go to the 10 years, so I'd have to remember what that is.
Sure.
I write a movie about a guy going back for his 10-year high school reunion. And originally I was like, oh, I'll call it Reunion. But I'm like, I'm sure there was a billion movies called Reunion, right? So what if you said, here's what it's going to be. You get the cast, right? And you link letter it. You go, the first one's going to be called 10 Years Later.
Oh, I like what you're doing.
Then the second one, you film 10 years later, and it's called 20 Years Later.
That's really good.
And you just you see how many you can do before the cast, see how they iterate, but revisit it every 10 years.
I do like that. I do like that a lot. That'd be really cool.
That'd be really, really fun.
I mean, that was the funny thing of American Reunion, the American Pie reunion. First off, was an 11-year high school reunion.
Look, man, it's
which I was like,
okay.
nobody fucking does that. And then you're telling me
mine was 11 years.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, oh fuck, that's weird.
I think what happened was it was like, oh shit, we missed ours, and then my friends were like, well, someone's got to do something about this, and they did it.
But I have that hope for that movie franchise. That we get another American reunion down the line.
Because
it's totally those movies.
What the hell is Jason Biggs doing right now?
Hey, you stay away from him. He's fine.
Get off your ass, Jason Biggs, because Sean William Scott's fucking crushing it right now.
He was the voice of Leonardo. I don't know if he stopped doing that.
Yeah, I think he was for a while. He's doing a lot of stuff. I'm just getting their shit.
Okay,
they're all doing stuff.
Yeah, they're all.
Sean William Scott's actually he's on Lethal Weapon still.
Yeah, but now Damon Wayans is in that film.
No one cares. Let's
or
put
that
someone else in.
TV show.
Yeah, did you hear about that?
Yeah, he's literally too old for this shit.
Too old for this shit.
That's fucking hilarious. But now are they going to recast him too? Like, what's the plan for that?
No idea. That show's a mess.
That shit is a mess. Yeah,
because he actually, I think if I'm not mistaken, he was one of the outspoken people of getting the other guy kicked off because he was an asshole. And now Damon Wayans is leaving, and Sean William Scott's like, can I get a fucking break?
Can I just get a fucking job?
I did Goon 1 and Goon 2, and nobody cared about those movies.
People cared about Goon. People liked Goon.
Yeah, I heard it was funny. I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah. I like Sean William Scott.
Yeah, I love Sean William Scott. I like Sean William Scott in The Rundown. He is great in that movie.
A lot of people say that. I haven't watched The
Rundown. He and The Rock are great. Oh, dude. It's a legit great Rock movie.
I was going to say, I think people point as like the first time The Rock was in a really great movie.
It's the one where he knocked it out of the park. Because you remember prior to that, you were like, oh, The Rock in Doom.
Yeah. Great. Tooth Fairy, right?
He did the Tooth Fairy. He did Doom. We might be mixing up the times these all came out. But The Rundown was the first this is legit dope action movie. He's got good acting chops. It's got a great bad guy and Christopher Walken. It's fine. Wow.
He was in a Get Shorty sequel too.
He was in yes, he was in the Get Shorty sequel.
That was a couple scenes.
Be Cool, I think was what that movie was called. And that movie was bad.
Yeah.
No, I shouldn't say bad. It just Get Shorty is one of my all-time favorite
industry.
Movies. I think it was, I want to say, I'm going to get it wrong. Elmore Leonard, excuse me.
Thank you.
One of my favorite Elmore Leonard.
For a second there, it's one of my all-time movies.
I was going to say Barry Sonnenfeld, but he's not who did it.
That sounds like it would be.
Is it Barry Sonnenfeld that directed it? It's either him or Soderbergh. But it might have been. No, Soderbergh did Out of Sight, which is another Elmore Leonard book. I think Barry Sonnenfeld did this one. I could be wrong about all this. But either way, Elmore Leonard, I loved Get Shorty. And I just recently went back and watched that a week ago. And I'm like, this movie still holds up. It is beautifully made. Beautifully made. But the sequel, not so much.
Yeah, what are you going to do? Before we get to our second topic, a serious topic, let's talk about our sponsor, patreon.com/kindafunny. Did you know you can go to patreon.com/kindafunny, support us, support Kinda Funny, keep people employed, help us get new employees, help us get new cameras, all that stuff? You can. And if you go during the month of October and do the fan mail teaser, you'll get a Ghostbusters photo. That's right, me and Nick and Portillo for sure dressed as Ghostbusters. Maybe a Slimer in there, or definitely some ghost versions of Andy, all that kind of crap. Us Proton Packs having a good time. It'll be signed. It'll be great. But if you don't want that, there's a million other things you can get. Pre-shows, post-shows, early access, all that jazz. Patreon.com/kindafunny. Just like... I would say Amar, but then Kevin spelled it out. So I'm going to say Amar, and then I'm going to spell it out the way Kevin spelled it out phonetically, all right? Just like Amar or Amr Kashe Trapal did to get his topics on the show. He's been doing a whole bunch of topics. They're all stacked up.
Love it.
But what we run into is the fact that Amr's topics require a lot of research and knowledge. Yeah. So he's given us other ones to do so far that need more stuff. He wants like a retrospective on what we think of George W. Bush. Interesting. Yeah. I have to dust off a lot of files to go back.
I will tell you my opinion on that after I see the movie Vice. Have you seen the preview?
I have seen that. Fucking, you kidding me right now?
God damn, Christian Bale.
Go get him, Christian Bale.
Just give him the Academy Award.
Exactly, right?
Excellent casting with the guy they cast for George W. What's his name?
Sam Rockwell. Our favorite from MCU villains.
Oh, God, he's so good.
But this topic is a MERS. He wrote in with the simple topic of Brett Kavanaugh.
Just so simple.
That's it. 2 words, a period, send. And I appreciate he wants to know what we think of Brett Kavanaugh, the new Supreme Court Justice. Kevin is joining us over on Shock Mike. Joey, you were on call for this too. Just a heads up out there. Brett Kavanaugh. It's where do you want to start with this one? You know what I mean? Where do we start with Brett Kavanaugh, the new Supreme Court Justice? We are recording this on October 9th, 2018.
2-3 days after he's been confirmed. Something like that,
Something like that, yeah. This is the Tuesday after, right? And we're putting this one up next, right? Holding the second Poe?
Yes,
gotcha,
yes,
okay. Man.
I feel like so.
It's just like when you when you just throw a name out of it, right? Like
obviously he's talking about
all
the circumstances behind the confirmation,
Sure.
right?
I just want to say, like, Amar, like, shout outs. That's like, I like the way you do these
Oh,
things.
100%.
Like,
No, I'm
these
not
are
knocking
really
Amar
cool,
at all.
and it
No.
very
The
much
next one
is
he's like
just
Osama bin
here it is.
Laden.
Bam!
Go. All right, well that's a little more cut and
And
dry.
that's the thing about Brett Kavanaugh, Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh.
Yeah.
Of just like, where do you want to start? What angle do you want to take this guy on?
It's going to be fascinating because I think when people look back on this moment in history, Brett Kavanaugh is going to be sort of like the poster boy for it, right? Like all of the...
I mean, Donald Trump, I would assume, is going to be the
Well,
poster
I'm
boy.
sorry, you're absolutely true. But what I'm saying is this could be a moment that you look back on and be like, this is a perfect example of what people were going through at this time, right? This is an example of the Me Too movement. This is an example of the Trumpism. All of those things coming together to clash at the highest possible level of government.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's simultaneously absolutely intriguing and absolutely terrifying to think of like the ramifications of what it might be.
Sure.
It's a very complex subject.
Yeah.
And it's a subject that is very polarizing.
Yeah.
For sure.
Sure.
And it's complex, but we can get into it.
I think, Greg, the best place to probably start is like what happened, like what is happening, what has happened, right? Because I imagine there's a bunch of people who aren't informed.
So this past weekend, he was confirmed as a Supreme Court Justice.
Mm-hmm.
He was confirmed.
Who vacated the seat? Was it not Scalia?
No.
But he died, right?
Yeah.
it was
Sorry,
Justice
yes, he died,
Scalia.
Merrick Garland.
Right. And for those of you who don't know, and again, I'm going to ask a lot of
You're
questions on
shooting
this
from the
too
hip here.
because I don't know a lot about everything, so we're going to Google a lot about it here. But the Supreme Court obviously nominated by the president gets to nominate the Supreme Court justice, and
When
for
a
those of you who don't
vacancy
know,
becomes.
when a vacancy becomes, which is by the way an amazing responsibility that the president gets not that often, because the people in the Supreme Court can never get voted out. That is the power of the Supreme Court, is that once you're in for life, and the idea behind that is you are supposed to be incorruptible. You are supposed to be people who are setting policy and law at the highest level, and you are supposed to be untouchable, which is a very, 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 very important, very powerful position that any human being can be in, which is why people care so badly about this. Yeah,
they are the final word.
So yeah,
you can argue your appeals, all this different things, and like you go from, I'll get all this wrong, but your local court to your county court to your state court to your, and eventually like the farthest you can fucking go is the Supreme Court to be like, this is a problem. What do we do?
And at that point, like, Supreme Courts, this is where it gets, I don't want to misspeak, but Supreme Courts are responsible for, if something gets elevated that high, it becomes is the Supreme Court who did Roe v. Wade?
Yes.
Yeah. So that is a perfect example of like, hey, we're going to hear this, try this. This is going to become a law, basically, where abortion isn't in fact legal then.
For the state, or I'm sorry, for the union, for the country.
Right.
Yeah. Then you have federal or federal laws for state laws and all this other stuff. And I know this is confusing for international people, but it's confusing for us in a lot of ways.
So all of this very important, of course, when you set up the importance of what that empty position means there. And I don't know enough about the Supreme Court over the last like 20 or 30 years to figure out which way it has swayed, whether it's been more Democrat or more Republican. So I don't know, Kevin, if you have more
Conservative or liberal.
Conservative or liberal, rather, to say.
I mean, it's been fairly 50-50 with it changing.
What is it now, though, with him coming in?
More conservative.
More conservative,
Yeah.
right?
But not by much. I think it's just the...
Like by 1 or 2, right?
Yeah, 5-4.
It won, okay. So it's interesting, and obviously, like, the Supreme Court, a lot of people see as exemplary of where the nation's at, right? Like, if they can set the policy, a lot of people say, oh shit, we can't let it get too conservative, because then it'll get too conservative, and people start thinking doom and gloom, like, what if they were to repeal Roe v. Wade? What if they were to do all those things? Versus it gets too liberal, and conservatives start going like, we can't legalize everything and let everyone run amok. So it is that checks and balance system that you're seeing kind of played out in that microcosm, which then takes us to Brett Kavanaugh, who is Donald Trump's nominee.
Correct.
And now has been
Now
confirmed.
he had already was presided over his first case, or saw his first case as Supreme Court justice.
And as part of the hearing process of vetting this candidate, they have to go into his background and they have to ask him lots of questions. And who does this? Does the Senate do that? It's a Senate hearing, right?
Yes, the Senate does.
And during that, somebody came out from his past and said,
not even during the process. Yes, when he was shortlisted. Dr. Christine Ford came forward to her senator in a newspaper, a local newspaper,
Yes. Right.
basically being
Feinstein,
like,
right?
Was it Feinstein?
I think it was Feinstein.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
No, she's Palo Alto.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
Dianne Feinstein right here from San Francisco.
Right.
Came to her to say that when they were teenagers, Brett Kavanaugh sexually assaulted her or attempted sexual assault. Oh, I mean, still he grinded it. She alleges he grinded on her, had his hand over her mouth,
and then
groped
someone
her or
else
whatever.
came in.
The guy was there the whole time. Sometimes, according to her testimony, sometimes making eye contact, sometimes not. Blah 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 blah. Not that I'm blah blah blahing, but this is a short version of an incredibly emotional topic of her description of what happened. So she had done that. She takes a polygraph, lie detector. The lie detector administrated by the people says that she's telling the truth. It continues to escalate, become a talking point, become people as usual in our two-party system,
very
screaming at
politicized.
each other about it, tearing each other apart over this shit. Finally, they force the hand of, if you're going to do this, you have to do it by...
It was like a Monday. She was like Friday. They're like, you got to testify by Monday. And she's like, I'm not really ready for that, right?
Yeah,
like,
but she
do
does.
it.
She sucks it up and she goes in to testify in front of this whole thing. And it's basically her versus Kavanaugh in different testimonies or whatever. Her coming in to tell her story, Kavanaugh coming in to tell his. And then, it is just a fucking shit show from there. This whole thing is just described as that, a shit show.
Yeah.
A pandering party line, not listening to each other, let alone listening to her. Both parties hearing what they want to hear, need to hear. The Republicans on the Senate committee bringing in, of course, there's no female Republican on this thing to do this, right?
Yeah, it was like all white guys.
Or is there one that they just don't want to put it on? They hire a third-party female to actually ask their questions to Dr. Ford so that they don't have this weird power dynamic. And this is all like what people are saying and commentating and goes on.
Mitchell, I think was her name.
She tells this in this horrifying story of being
Very emotional, like powerful.
Yeah, powerful. Yeah, right. Because I it's that thing of personally, I would say they're both emotional.
Different kind of
Kavanaugh's
emotions
are fucking at surface level of like
He was extremely composed.
He's ready to pop. She's composed. She's holding it together. She tears up, and I mean, as I would too, talking about being sexually assaulted or whatever, or allegedly sexually assaulted. You know what I mean? She tells her stories. Everybody asks questions to her. Eventually, then Kavanaugh comes out and gives a meandering speech in the beginning that didn't make much sense, where he's already getting choked up. Eventually goes in, asks questions, very defensive, very combative and stuff like that. I'm summarizing a whole bunch here. It moves on. The Senate starts talking to each other about it. Again, it's parties. There's backdoor meetings. No one knows what's happening. Are they going to vote for him? Are they not going to vote for him? It goes from... Yeah, I mean, even Fox News is putting up a thing of like, it did not look good. This is horrible. To other people like, no, he redeemed himself and did this thing. Eventually, it comes down in some way that they get a swing vote from the Republicans at the time, but it's like got a condition that they want the FBI to continue investigating.
That's a big component of this too, which was that people were calling for an FBI investigation,
which they got.
This.
Yeah, they got.
But people are saying,
giant book. Like, how many pages did you?
I don't
read
remember
that
off the top of my head.
I think I saw someone that was like 800 pages or something.
What was the conclusion of the investigation, though?
I don't know.
So many stipulations to things that they could and could not do within the investigation that it wasn't
Because
necessarily.
didn't Trump have to order the investigation though? And at one point, weren't people like, "Why aren't you endorsing an investigation?" And he's like, "I just don't."
Well, I don't think he had to order. I think it's just, why aren't you endorsing? Which is something
Maybe
they
that was what it
asked.
is. I thought he
Kavanaugh
could have
at
called
the Senate
for one,
hearing
though.
too, of like, if you're innocent, why wouldn't you want this or something to that effect? Whatever. People are arguing that the FBI didn't talk to people. Old classmates are coming out to say that what he said in front of you was perjury because he did not. I know for a fact he didn't do that, but the FBI won't return my calls. All this stuff's happening.
But just to be clear, like when the original accusation or the claims came out, there were a lot of people from his graduating class a lot of women that had reached out and been like, no, like I
was a
know
great
him.
guy.
This isn't the guy that I know. So there was a lot of that back and forth from both sides.
Well,
100%.
there were other women that came forward as well, right? Or was it just
There was
four?
one other woman.
I thought there was two, wasn't
Or
there?
was there two? I thought it was two.
Hold on.
Could be wrong.
I only heard one, but I was in Hawaii for part of this time.
Yeah.
It was remember it was Dr. Ford, Deborah Ramirez, and then Julie Swetnick. And the Swetnick thing is the one where when Senator Feinstein asked him about it, he's like, "That's a farce. It doesn't even," and she's like, "Do you want to say anything else about it?" He's like, "No," and like gets a laugh out of the room or whatever. Now, okay, so let's just. I'm trying the best to give you what really happened.
Yeah.
As from my first off patchwork knowledge of it in the fucking media shotgun blast of all this shit
pretty quickly,
and also not totally like unbiased to an extent. This happens, it all happens, blah, 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 blah. One Republican senator, I forget, is like the final one, is like, I'm gonna endorse Kavanaugh. So that's enough. They get the votes, they get it through. There's protests all over the place. She's get like torn apart in the media. I forget her name. I have to look it up. I like that. Kevin's eyes went wide and shook his head now. Yes, that sounds right. Senator Collins, right? Yeah. Anyways, it's a shit show. They vote. Mike Pence calls for the vote as what's the vice president? I know, but like leader, House leader. No.
He's the president of the Senate.
Right.
Yeah.
And so they do it. They vote him in. Everybody's fucking pissed off. He's the dude. So now you have a very horrible recap with facts I'm sure wrong and all these different things, but you got the base judgment of it. Here's not what I know. Here's my perception. Brett Kavanaugh really comes off like an asshole. And I don't know what happened with him and Dr. Ford, right? I am very much in the camp of I believe women. And I know that's a blanket statement. That's all sorts of stuff, right? But like I looked into it, right? Because it's something I kicked around. A 2014 study, one of the largest of its kind, analyzed LAPD police data and estimated the rate of false rape reports among cases reported to the LAPD in 2008 was 4.5%. A 2017 study used FBI data over the 5-year period from 2006 to 2010 included that approximately 5% of the allegations of rape were deemed false or baseless during that period. A 2016 meta-analysis of 7 studies addressing the same question estimated 5.2% of rape allegations were false.
I think it's I think it's dangerous to say like I believe and then a broad like group.
100%. 100%.
One out of 20 is a false allegation.
Yep.
That's still a statistic that I think matters.
Yeah.
And I think that the most important thing that came out of here is that guy seems like there's something wrong.
And that's my point. So stick with me right here. Is like what I'm trying to drive to is I do not feel as Greg Miller, internet commenter, I fucking love Assassin's Creed or Odyssey, and I want to talk to you about my fucking dog. I'm equipped to sit here and weigh in on if that sexual assault really happened. Blah 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 blah. Yada da da da. I think that my interpretation of watching those hearings, of reading the stuff, he doesn't present himself well. He comes off angry in
he definitely let the stress of what was happening in those current circumstances get the better of him,
right.
Which begs the question, what happens when you have to make a really important decision that can basically affect 318 million Americans?
Exactly.
That is the crux of what we're talking about here, right? Which is this person suited? Well, I mean, you could broaden it out and be like, is any person suited for that? But we have chosen to elect these people who can do this. Does this guy belong on a place where we expect him to weigh everything evenly and objectively and make the right call?
Yep. And
for a guy who presented himself at a court hearing, an official hearing like this, I'm not inclined to be like, yeah, that guy's my guy. That guy's the guy who's going to do that.
I agree. And here's where and this is going to sound terrible. You all know me, I hope, well enough for what I'm doing here. I want to try to get away from the hearings as fast as possible, because I think there's definitely another side of the coin to that is legitimate. If I'm Greg Miller and I'm running for whatever, or somehow they're fucking looking at me at the Supreme Court, and someone pops up to be like, you sexually assaulted me, and I'm like, I know that's a lie, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, again, as a public speaker for years, I feel like I get out there and not lose my shit in front of everyone watching me.
But here's my biggest problem
Lay it on me.
with what like I feel like you're about to say, which is like those moments are extreme, and if someone loses their shit, that's more understandable.
I'm not saying it's under. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry. We're not fighting each other.
Okay, I just want to make sure that like the man is a judge.
Yep.
Like right now,
sure,
or for the last I think 20 years or something.
Sure,
he's been a judge. That might be wrong.
I'll look it up.
Yeah, I got his page up, and I knew we were gonna have a lot of questions.
He knows how he should like react or how he should act in front of a judge or a court of people that are trying to understand his point.
Yeah.
He knows how you're supposed to argue, or at least he should know. And if he doesn't, he has no place where he was just appointed.
Since 2003, he's been U.S. Court of Appeals. He's been working at the U.S. He's been a judge there. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously this is a very intense situation that people are being thrown into. But yeah, my brain is just like it's blown away by this. I'm like, this guy needs to be able to deal with these pressures better.
Yes, 100%.
He needs to be able to do that, and he's not. And so taking out the actual accusations, I mean, I think there's a very valid case to be made of like you've had trial by fire and you lost.
Exactly.
Like,
you
didn't work.
You look like an asshole. I don't know who you are in your private life. I don't know shit about you. I know the way you're talking to senators. I know that after he fucking went in on Feinstein, they took a break and he came back, or not Feinstein, the other female Democratic senator, where she was like, my father. Sorry. I don't remember. The one where she is like, my dad's an alcoholic, blah, blah, and he was like, well, do you have a drinking problem? Da, da, da. And it's that thing of he is flippantly responding and shooting from the hip without thinking of talking, and he knows all eyes are on him. He knows how fucked up this all is, right? And there's a way to sit there and be like, hey, everybody, I'm super angry, and I'm on it because I'm being falsely accused, but I'm going to treat you all with the respect you deserve as well. And don't get me wrong, I understand that, let's say, from his shoes, the Republican side, no one's treating him with that respect, and this is the same problem with fucking politics, not even politics, with America right now, is that no one is willing to be the bigger fucking person. Yeah. No one is willing to fucking just stand there and be like, I can take it, go ahead. I'm the president of the United States. You can fucking talk shit to me, and you can vent on me, and I can sit here and I can take it, and I can be a rational person and not tweet at 2 in the fucking morning about some nonsense.
Yeah, you would also expect someone who is a judge to understand the concept of due process and be able to have patience with that. Now, again, like I can in an attempt to understand his mindset, you are getting elevated to probably what I have to imagine has been a lifelong goal at this point, and out of seemingly, if you really don't have the perspective that you did something wrong, somebody comes out and says you did something, and it can look like a political attack. And so I understand that you would be frustrated, but that is the nature of this level of the game, right? Like, you are going to have people who don't want you to be in power, and you need to be able to deal with that in a manner, especially when there are television cameras on, that is going to instill confidence in your ability to do that. So that I think is one of the disappointing elements of this. The other is that apparently there were more allegations that just apparently have they been. And this is where I start to lose a little bit of the information. I was like, have they been vetted? Is the FBI looking into those at all, or is the case done? The
investigation's closed now, right? And that's what Cory Booker was talking about, Democratic senator from New Orleans, right? He was the former. You're not with me on this one?
I'm looking at this.
Cory Booker. Give me a Google on Cory Booker so I know where Democratic. Yeah, what he is. His whole
Colorado.
thing. Colorado, thank you.
Oh, that's Cory Gardner.
Right,
sorry,
I'll do myself.
I got it.
No, you sure? Because you're just control Fing inside an article that I'm not sure if it mentions Cory Booker. He was talking about that if at midterms Dems win it back, they're gonna they're gonna look into impeachment, or they're gonna look into going after this.
Yeah, Cory Booker is a senator for New Jersey, Democrat for New Jersey.
Okay, thank you.
That makes sense.
They're gonna look back into this, and so it's like it's not over, but it's kind of over. But then it's also over. This thing, and it's a lifelong appointment, and it's all this fucking shit, and it's.
Let's put it this way: if they haven't figured out how to impeach Trump by now, they're not gonna spend a lot of time and resources impeaching someone at the Supreme Court.
But I mean, but this is the flip of it, right? That if they got the Senate back, if the midterms sway it back to it is a more liberal Senate and Congress, then that's a different side, right? In terms of impeachment and going for all this stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, we get a little into the weeds too, but you're like the whole concept is these people are supposed to be sort of on some level of an unimpeachability. So I don't know how that works.
I think that there is a process.
Oh, I'm sure there is.
Sure,
I mean, someone's because they get that, they don't get God status.
And it's like, will it happen?
It's supposed to be hard to take them out of office.
No, this is all done. It's the same thing with Trump. No, Trump's done. It's this is how it is. Strap the fuck in and wait.
It's really It's difficult because my perspective on this issue is going to be different than, say, like my wife's perspective on the issue, right? And so I've seen a lot of criticism. I've seen a lot of both sides of people who kind of are arguing different points of it. And I would just say, like, just be aware of, first off, be aware of everyone's perspective on this, because this is going to affect a lot of people differently. But the thing that is breaking my heart on this is that, there have been times again when I've seen people in my life that I really love and trust, who look at this and say, this is just yet another example of our society not really saying that they respect us.
100%.
And that sucks, right?
Yes.
I don't like that my wife has to live in a world where she feels that the governing body, is, for all intents and purposes, doesn't give a shit about her. Now, I know I'm painting in broad strokes, and I know that there are a lot of people out there that are good, like, in politics for the betterment of people, and that there is a fight that needs to be had still. But, you hear a lot, like, I think people, especially guys, feel like there's some sort of attack happening. And I'm like, it's not necessarily about that. It's more about, really looking at these people who we're trying to elevate and expecting them to be perfect human beings, and then when they fall short of it, just like, it's okay, it's fine, like that was a long time ago. And it's like, well, I don't know if that's necessarily like something that we should be giving a pass to. Like, as far as I'm concerned, there's two perspectives on this, right? There's the perspective of, did he do it? And if he did do it, how long ago? You always hear this argument of like, well, how long ago is someone supposed to be accountable for their actions, right? Like, if it was 30 or 40 years ago, are they supposed to be accountable for that? My personal perspective is, I'm like, yeah, I think they are, right? Like, I know that you were a different person in high school, and that you did things in high school that maybe you didn't have the correct perspective on.
Yeah,
but
you still did
them. Yeah.
This is the crux of, I think, what we talk about all the time on Kind of Funny. We're taking it to a much darker place and a much higher level, right? But it is, and the thing of, yes, we've all done stupid fucking shit growing up that we regret and we are sorry for, and I'd like to think we apologize for and talk about it, and we own that experience and come out and say this, that, and the other, right?
Yeah.
Like, I understand, like, if Kavanaugh did this, of course he's not going to be like, whoa, right? He's saying what's the statute of limitations on it being a different person. Yes, that is a complicated issue, and it starts with him going, yeah, I did do that. I was drunk and I was stupid at a party, and I've regretted it, and I've apologized to her, and I feel horrible. Like, none of that's happened. And again, maybe it didn't happen, period. But I'm saying that's where we can start with a conversation of like, cool, what is forgiveness? Because this goes back to the Mike Tyson stuff, right? Of like the topic on the GOG episode about it, where like, everybody loves Mike Tyson. It's like, wait, he raped somebody and went to jail for it. Yeah. But he went to jail for it. So should we forgive him? Or is he a rapist the rest of his life and he should never have it? And it's just like,
and that same conversation, by the way, is being
this?
echoed a lot with Louis C.K. right now at the moment, because he's coming back, and a lot of people are like, you're not really like showing the general public that you are remorseful about this.
Right.
You're not coming back in a way that the vast majority of people are feeling like you are actually sorry and have realized that you've done something wrong. And I hear time and time again, like, there has to be space for us to forgive people, and I 100% agree.
But you have to own up you were wrong.
Well, that's my thing, is if I ever did anything wrong, like, I would want people to forgive me. I would want to find a way back to make amends for what I have done, because that's the right thing to do. I don't think anyone's perfect. People make mistakes.
Yeah.
People do stupid things, and people make mistakes, and they have to pay for them, and that's just the way it goes. But there is it's one of those things where you see like a guy like Louis C.K. and you hear how he's coming back, and you hear how he's starting to do stage time, and the jokes that he's doing, and how he really hasn't. It just doesn't seem to me that he's approaching this from a sincere perspective. It seems that he's approaching his comeback from a perspective of a very PR perspective of like, it feels like there are people behind going like, the time's now.
You've sat out long enough. People have kind of forgotten. Right? They've got other fish to fry.
As opposed to potentially like figuring out a more organic way to make amends for what he's done. Now I know he's like lost money on it, and I know that some people have said, I'm speaking. That's the extent I know about Louis C.K.'s comeback. I just know that he went back up and said some jokes that were off color.
Has he done it again since that first night?
He's gone back up again.
Okay, I haven't heard anything about that since the first night.
And so it's one of those things where like, as a person who goes up on stage and talks about these things, like, you should be the better person and go up and talk about this. Like, why aren't you having this? Sure. Like, how about this, instead of shying away from it and realizing that your career, like trying to get back to where your career was, maybe we just have to take another path with this, and you're having maybe go on stage with these girls that you did this to and have a dialogue about it. Let's listen to them. What do they talk about? Sure. Maybe call a club and be like, I'm booking 5 shows for these people.
Yeah,
and I'm calling every single person I know and going, hey, hire them. because they can't get jobs probably now. Like people aren't going to want to work with them, and that's bullshit.
And that's the back to the thing here with Dr. Ford, right? Of like in the Kavanaugh thing, when he calls out that this is like reverberations of a Clinton like the revenge plot, it's like I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, but it's more the thing of like this woman of course is getting death threats now, and she can't go to her house right now, and it's just like I don't think anyone came in with a giant check and was like, do this, right? Like do you think here, you know what I know about Anita Hill? She accused Clarence Thomas of showing his penis to her once. That woman has probably had amazing jobs, has a great education, has a wonderful family, does amazing things now. That's all I know about her, right? And I know that she fucking went to bat and lost. I'm sure Dr. Ford, who in her speech is like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to do this. I believe her. I don't think that this was a weird thing. And so it's, or a weird, I
don't think it was
cash
a
grab,
publicity.
She's a fucking doctor in Palo Alto.
Let's put it in terms of, he just got confirmed, and she's getting death threats. So you tell me, is that like what in your life, what amount of money would you be willing to do something for to compromise your integrity and your morals enough so that you'd have to deal with death threats and having that for the rest of your life?
And again, I believe her.
It's a hard one.
And I don't, of course, the whole conversation's hard. Again, let's get away from the hearings and get away from all that.
Sure.
Then the fucking putrid response from vocal members of the Republican Party about this, right? From Trump's goddamn speech, tearing her apart. You know what I mean? Being like, I couldn't remember this, but only like, come the fuck on, dude. Again, someone just be the bigger person. Shut the fuck up. You won. It's over. Congratulations. This fucking beers for Brett bullshit with the champagne and shit. Fuck off. Like so many of these people, just shut the fuck up. You've won. You're in power. Congratulations. You know what I mean? Don't be these. You're all being cartoon supervillains, and not all of you. There's plenty of Republicans, I don't fucking know, that just do their thing.
People don't stay in power without, like, waking
gloating?
everyone. No, it's not gloating. It's bringing attention, being like, see, we were right. It's like kind of brainwashing. It's very much
it's
like
propaganda.
Yeah,
we're the winning team.
Yeah, we're the winners here. They were wrong the whole time. Keep believing us, because that's the only way things are going to get better.
And so now it's the conversation of, well, you see everybody doing it. We're doing it right now as we talk to you. You still have time to make sure you're registered to vote for November. Go fucking make sure you're registered to vote for November. And again, I'm not saying that as someone who's clearly has liberal leaning, I assume, and the fact that I want everyone's fucking birth control covered. The fucking fact that go represent yourself. Just go out there and represent your point of view, because that's the thing I struggle with, right? And we had hints of this a couple weeks ago in the GameOverGreggy show of would you abandon the United States or whatever? Would you leave the United States, right? Is that I feel every day the country is becoming more and more not reflective of the country and what I believe in America is, right? And I sit here and I have this conversation and like, oh man, would I ever leave and yada yada. I understand that on the other side right now, the winning side, where they're like, everything's going the way we want. You've had 8 years where you were like, man, I don't know what this fucking country is anymore. And so that's a weird thing for me to wrestle with. That if again we go and everybody goes to vote in November and it comes back that nope, everyone's really good with this. Everyone's really happy with how things are going. It's gonna be like, all right, like the majority spoke, I guess, and I can sit here and be vocal that I don't like that and I don't like this.
Yeah,
I think the thing to remember, it's the majority that votes.
I know. But like,
very much,
this is the thing.
Yeah.
If the fucking past year and a half hasn't motivated the people who are like, I don't give a shit, to get out and give a shit, we're fucked.
I totally agree, and I don't want to say I've given up, but it's just like people.
Well, it's demoralizing,
Yeah.
and this is the problem too. Of course, is what again with the constant showboating, fucking shitting all over people. And again, I don't want to say Republicans, because again, I long for the days. There's a loaded conversation, obviously, in a million different ways. I long for the days where you could just converse about politics, and you could, and I feel like it still happens. You go to a party and you don't agree on an issue and you talk it out and you're like, all right, you know what I mean? It's just that when we get to something as big as Trump, how could you support it? Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. When I'm saying the gloating Republicans, I'm talking about very specific people. I'm mostly not even talking about the support base. the foundation of it, right? Like the Republicans I know in my life aren't fucking texting me or shitting on, you know what I mean? Like I'm talking about the people with fucking beers for
on
Brett
TV,
and all this crap.
well, the clips that you've seen.
Sure, yeah, talking heads and all this shit and yada yada yada, right?
Senators and stuff getting interviewed and
so
stuff that's being largely propagated by social media.
The question is we run up to November now, have people not woken up because are they going to get off their asses and are they going to get out there and they're going to do all this stuff? And you can't call the ball yet. You know what I mean? Did you see all this Taylor Swift stuff?
Yeah.
No, I did not.
So she released her statement finally, and then Trump was like, I like your music 25% less.
So Taylor Swift put up an Instagram post that was basically like, hey, I usually don't get political. I don't, blah, blah, and I don't want to infringe. It was this giant post that's basically like the woman running for, I forget what, in Tennessee. She's Republican. I'm not voting for her. Like,
I can't back her. Basically,
I can't back anybody who doesn't back equal rights for all. And she's talking about LGBTQ stuff. And she's talking about women's rights and all this jazz, right? So, yeah, she put out that statement, right? Huckabee fucking went on Twitter and he's like, I'm all for Taylor Swift being political, but it just sucks that like 13-year-olds can't vote kind of thing. And I'm generalizing it, but that's pretty much the exact thing of it, right? Yes, Trump got asked about it and he's like, I like her music 25% less. I saw that quote cold on a page. Maybe it was a more jovial tone he gave or whatever. Who knows what the fuck. Doesn't matter, right? The thing about
to
this...
be fair, that's probably the most measured response Trump's ever done to a tweet before in his life, where I was like,
Still Taylor Swift,
I was like, that is actually kind of a clever tweet.
This is making the rounds today, but of course I'll just read. I don't know where I pulled it from. Sorry. Voting registrations nationwide and in Tennessee have significantly increased just a day after singer Taylor Swift posted a rare political Instagram post. According to vote.org on Monday, nationwide, there have been 51,308 new registrations in the past 24 hours. It also saw a general spike in website traffic in the last 24 hours with 155,940 unique visitors. In the state of Tennessee, 2,811 registrations from September increased to 3,582 in October so far, and 2,144 of those were in the last 36 hours, according to the website. 2,000 plus in the last 36 hours.
That's awesome.
Because she made this thing up. And so that's the thing of, we're saying it, vote. She's saying about, I'll take credit for all the traffic everyone's about to get on Friday when this goes up.
Yeah, definitely.
But I mean, like, again, I'm not trying to turn this into a war between the Kind of Funny best friends and the YouTube comments. And I know YouTube comments can't be saved. But it's that thing is, if you don't agree, or if you don't agree with what we talk about, how we say about it, or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, totally, I get that. You just vote as well. Like,
doesn't matter.
I just want it to be. Is this because like I look at this, and this is what I was talking about the other day, right? On the would you leave this country thing and where we all felt, right? Like, I look at all this and it just feels, and again, this is me personally, it feels like the bad guys keep winning. It feels like the bad stuff keeps happening. And my question is, again, just let me go for 1 second on this rant. Sorry, Kev. Is the fact that I get that the other side felt like the bad guys that must have been winning before. And I try to put myself back into my shoes as somebody who wasn't, I try to put myself back when W was in charge. And be like, I remember being like, this is a war for oil. And I remember this, that we weren't motivated right. Did I feel this disenfranchised? Did I feel this worn down by all this shit? And then I got to stop and wonder, is it always like this for an adult? In the political scheme, was it always this bad when I was growing up? And it was fucking, Reagan, it was Bush, it was, and I mean even Obama and Clinton too. But did it always seem like we were this off the rails as a political system?
I ask my mother that all the time, and she's like, it's never been this bad.
No, and I think the reason, I've been alive for now since Reagan, and I think the thing that you're seeing now is that because of Trump has allowed a lot of the facade to be torn away from politics. And a lot of people are saying, "Oh, it's the worst it's ever been." And I think socially, yes, because what you're seeing is that he's allowing everyone else in the political sphere to be to let their true colors shine through. So I think what we're seeing is I don't think that you can point to an era in the last 60 years where you can point to all the politicians and be like, great people. Right.
Of course.
These are great people on either side. This is a job that by definition of you trying to get means you have to do whatever it takes to get, and then you have to do whatever it takes to keep. So it's going to attract a certain level of person who is willing to compromise a lot of morals and a lot of anything they stand for in order to get and stay in power. Right. But before Trump, they at least were like, we can't let people know what we really think. And now all bets are off, and we're starting to see people just respond to stuff because they can get away with it and because other people are responding to it positively. And so that's the thing that I'm most disappointed of. But I also wonder, I'm like, I wonder the long-term effects of this, because in a lot of ways we're shedding some of the facade and the superficial nature of politics for the last 70, 80 years, where now people are just like, I'm going to say whatever I want to say. And there's that power in it, and it's affecting change. In my opinion, not necessarily the best change, but you have politicians who are going out there and weirdly telling the truth, and it's horrible truths. And people are like, all right. And it's like, whoa, it's just a weird environment for me. You have the president of the United States, talking shit to people. And it's like,
and everybody's
it's
fine
acceptable.
with it.
Insane, yeah.
And
it's so weird.
And that's the thing I just can't wrap my head around, is that I'm a Republican, I'm conservative, these are my values, It's people treating people like complete fucking shit.
Yeah.
Publicly, not hiding it, being assholes. And again, I understand this on both sides. I'm not trying to say that. But you look at that, you're like, that's who I want as my president, who goes to the UN and gets laughed at. They didn't laugh with you, motherfucker. They laughed at you because that was a stupid fucking thing to say. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? It's this thing. It's been going around and getting escalated. This New York Times piece, that's the first one I saw. Major climate report describes a strong risk of crisis as early as 2040. Everybody see this? Mm-hmm. We're already fucked. A landmark report from the United Nations Scientific Panel on Climate Change paints a far more dire picture of the immediate consequences of climate change than previously thought, and says that avoiding the damage requires transforming the world economy at a speed and scale that has no documented historic precedent. The report, issued on Monday by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, a group of scientists convened by the United Nations to guide world leaders, describes a world of worsening food shortages and wildfires and a mass die-off of coral reefs as soon as 2040, a period well within the lifetime of much of the global population. The report is, quote, quite a shock and quite concerning, said Bill Hare, an author and previous IPCC reports and physicist with Climate Analysis, a nonprofit organization. We were not aware of this just a few years ago. The report was the first to be commissioned by world leaders under the Paris Agreement, the 2015 pact by nations to fight global warming. Of course, this is the same pact Trump is trying to leave. This is the same thing where they were like, if you go over your emissions, we're going to charge you something ridiculous like $77 per cubic ton or whatever they're and Trump's trying to get it, or already did, I think, get it down in America to $4. And it's this thing of this hurtling thing of how can we sit there and look at scientists and be like, no, thank you. We don't need that information. How is anyone this greedy? How is anyone this closed-minded? There was a great comic on Reddit back when it was still funny about this shit, a year and a half ago, I remember, it's just an editorial cartoon, right? Of all the information about climate change and stuff. And it was just basically, yeah, but you're telling me we're going to, make the oceans cleaner. We're going to do all this great stuff. But what if you're wrong? And it's the answer is, what if you're wrong about climate? The world is just a better place.
Yeah.
It's less polluted. It's nicer for your grandchildren that you think you fucking act like you care so much about. You know what I mean? And the back to the gloating and shitbagging of the certain people that I can't remember. The Republican who put up the photo of the baby and is like, in a couple more months soon it'll be illegal for her to be aborted or whatever. You know what I mean? Basically saying they're going to overturn Roe v. Wade, right? And it's we do such a shitty job of caring for people in fucking so many situations. Fucking pay for birth control. It's simple. Help, teach this in schools. Why are we trying to go backwards with all this stuff? I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, basically, at the heart of it, I think, is just this concept of your team versus my team, right? It's the system.
Exactly, and why are we like this? How can we possibly still be like this?
I haven't quite figured it out, because I'll be the first person to admit that I have a lot of conservative tendencies, and when
you say that, what does that mean?
I just mean I don't believe that the government is the end all be all answer to everyone's problems. I agree with that too. I think that we have a lot of programs that if you look into, I think we probably could cut back and save a lot of money there. But I mean, I'm a walking I don't know the term for it, but I have a lot of polar opposites in me, right, too, which is I don't necessarily. I mean, I also think that we should have universal health care, right? So at the same time, I realize that saying like cutting government spending and also having universal health care is just kind of an physical impossibility. But I do believe that we have fundamentally failed every human being in this country by not offering them at least the very basic necessity of being able to walk into a hospital when they're sick and walk out not sick anymore.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's absurd that
Not
like
full of
our
debt.
healthcare system
Exactly.
right now is, I don't think people realize this, especially young people, but I don't think you understand how dire our healthcare system is right now. Like first off, my personal policy has skyrocketed. So every time I do anything, I get charged like $200 or $300 for it. And we have actually decent healthcare. Secondly, people are going bankrupt if you get sick. Like the only way to really not go bankrupt is to not get sick. And that's not really a reality that we can bet on, right? I can't be like, hey guys, I got the cure for everything. Don't get it. Like you can't, you know what I mean? Like that's completely fundamentally absurd.
And again,
so I
this
just think our priorities are out of whack, but it's because our system has been boiled down to these two parties that I guarantee there are Democrats who are like, I don't agree with all this shit either, but
Oh my God, totally.
I have to, because that's how you get elected and that's how you stay in power. And it's just completely absurd.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to beat up on just the Republican Party. The Democrat Party is also totally fucked up too. Politics is totally fucked up. I've hated this forever, and that's why I'm a registered independent. Like in the way of like, I want to decide as we go. But every time as we go now, it's just like, well, fuck you, Kevin. I'm a fucking hippie.
You know, and I mean that's the thing. I mean that's so sad, because I bet if you talk to any single person listening to this, if you were able to sit down with everyone that's listening to this podcast and ask them about their political views, you'd hear a lot of discrepancies as far as like what the parties would tout, right? I'm sure there are plenty of people out there that are like, yeah, I agree that this is good, this is bad, and those two are on diametrically opposed positions politically. Because everyone's different. And that's the other problem, is that we're trying to set policy for hundreds of millions of people at the same time. And that's just a really hard thing to do. It's hard to have a broad set policy that pleases every single person. So yeah, we're going to go in 8-year trends. And guess what? Trump's probably going to get reelected. That's just what's going to happen, because that usually is what happens. And that's, part of me says good, because then we'll just stave off disaster of him running again in 10 years. Like, let's just get it all done now, right? Rip the Band-Aid off and just get the 8 years done, and then have the pendulum swing the other way, and then we'll hear all the Republicans yell about a Democrat being in office for 8 more years, like we did when Obama was in office. To answer your question about Bush, though, like, no, people don't look back in the same light with him, because we had September 11th. And that was a big watershed moment where that galvanized our country.
Oh, yeah, no. But that's a separate topic of the conversation.
Yeah,
I also think it's just that,
Bush.
I just don't think it was like this. You know what I mean? I just don't think it was
well,
like
it
this.
wasn't, because we had people, they were better at selling the lies to people.
Sure.
Cheney was like, oh, we're going to go to this. And you're like,
weapons of
terrified
mass
of that man.
destruction.
I just
There's
won't
weapons of
believe what
mass
he says.
destruction.
Yeah.
But also,
we know there
we
wasn't.
weren't having a president that was like attacking people on Twitter.
No, George W.
Or mocking.
Do you remember what people said was one of the reasons they wanted to vote for George W. Bush?
It's the same reason they'd have
they want to have a beer with him.
And
Yeah.
that's how that's
I'll tell
every
you,
president.
You go back and look at that guy and you're like,
He parties.
he fucking parties. And I would like, I wasn't the biggest fan of the guy, but I was like, I see why people would like him, because he's very personable, right? And at no point did he ever go on Twitter. I don't think Twitter was a thing when he was here.
But he would go on
and
walks and
rage at
have
people.
interviews, and people would ask him questions, and he would answer and be like, "You have no idea what the fuck you're talking
No,
about."
He doesn't. But neither does
But he
Trump.
seemed good
landlocked
natured.
country.
He
Doesn't really
seemed
matter.
good natured.
Yeah.
Give me that at least.
But at least he didn't incite he didn't
seemed
imbue
fucking
hatred
dumb.
like a lot of people see in Trump, right? And that's the hard thing, is that the presidency is not something that I necessarily would ever want to do. That's a very difficult job to have, because you have to mean so much to so many people. And inevitably, I've been alive since 1980. I've seen a lot of presidents. I've never seen one president that universally was loved by everyone. There's always people who critique, because there's people that live in different circumstances. We all come from different backgrounds, different circumstances, different socioeconomic statuses. That's just the way it's going to have to be. The importance is being able to have that conversation and find some level of middle ground. And I feel like that's what you're responding to right now, is that it doesn't feel like our country is everyone's cool in their jets and we're coming together to have a conversation. It feels like everyone's going to their corners and waiting for the bell to
we've been
ring.
in our corners forever. That's the and I mean forever in a loose term now. I mean definitely in the run up to this election, or to Trump's election, right?
I think it goes even further than that. I think a lot of this can be, in my opinion, blamed on social media making the world smaller, and therefore more people that share the same beliefs can come together and talk easier.
And that's definitely
that can be problematic.
That's definitely something
But it's
I
also very
struggle
good,
with
obviously.
preparing for this topic, right? Where for a long time with the Kavanaugh stuff, I watched a little bit live, but was mainly seeing other reactions, and I've seen just over and over and over my circle of friends, my echo chamber, talking about this, right? And it is like, oh my God, blah, blah, blah. And I go and I watch the video, and he is emotional, and he is mad, and he is acting weird. But again, I do have to look at that other side of like, but what if I was up there? But then again, stick with me. What if I was up there? And then it is that thing of like, well, again, if I was up there, I wouldn't have been a judge for the last, at least 15 years, right? I wouldn't have been presenting myself in this area for a certain degree, right? And it's similar to the today as we record this morning on the morning show, it broke. James Gunn is being is talking with Warner Brothers about taking over Suicide Squad, right?
He's writing it and being eyed to direct as of recording.
Oh, that's the latest update?
Yeah, he's.
I thought IO9 was like they're in talks about it.
They're talking to him about writing it, and they're theorizing that they're like, maybe he'll direct it also. That's
so sad that he'd have to deal with all the baggage.
He's going to regret it. He's going to retcon it. It's going to be great. Anyways, before we get too off track, I put up the tweet of like, fuck yes, awesome, I can't wait kind of thing, you know what I mean? And I was kind of shocked to see, again, echo chamber, I guess, and I'm sure we'll get a whole bunch of feedback on this episode. People being like, oh my God, I guess it's okay for him to say horrible things, but not Trump, right? And it's like...
Yes, it's okay for a director to say horrible things and not the president of your country.
I'll do you one better. No, don't get me wrong. I agree with what you just said. In this fact, it's okay for a director, whatever it was, 10, 15 years ago to say something when he was early 30s,
Trying to be controversial.
He's a trauma director, and those films are a whole different thing, and fucking 60-year-old Donald Trump on a bus with Billy Bush talking about grabbing someone's pussy and making out with him. Yeah. There's a difference there. There's a big difference there outside of like what the fuck you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yes. 100%.
God.
There's a big difference if Greg Miller right now we're talking about a video game and I was like, fucking game's gay. Versus Greg Miller in college calling Jason Goes to Hell what was the one who was in space? Jason X. Jason X being gay. Yeah, big difference.
Whoa, that movie was great.
That's the conversation with my friend Graham that turned it all around where he's like, what do you mean? That's not what you mean. You don't mean gay that way, right?
Yeah.
Like, as you get older, the fucking, and what you're more worldly, yes, your view broadens. You understand the ramifications of everything you fucking do.
Trump's
but
just
also,
gonna get it, you know.
I will throw this out there too, as far as the defense of James Gunn as well. Like he was experimenting with being a provocateur and a comedian and throwing out comedic statements that he didn't mean. There's a big difference.
He's making jokes into a Twitter box that nobody understands.
Well, making jokes into the ethosphere to get a rise out of people and to get an emotional
response. He's not the president of the United States making fun of sexual assault victims.
The difference is Trump
can't remember details and shitting on them.
Yeah.
And fucking...
Or so many other things that he's done. Like,
of course, I know.
Even if this person's totally in... Like, if Brett Kavanaugh didn't do anything, like, Donald Trump has still made fun of people with, like, cerebral palsy and other disabilities and mocked them. Not just on Twitter, on like a stage in front of hundreds of people and this is my point. The world.
When we talk about comedy, and this is why I will support James Gunn, given all the stuff we know about him right now, is because when you go out there to make a joke, the intent is to entertain people. It's not to offend people or to strike fear into the hearts of people. With Trump, I don't think he cares one way or the other how his words affect people, and that to me, for a person who has that many responsibilities in the world, is that's not good. That doesn't instill confidence, and that's not the person that I want to be my leader. I want my leader to be tolerant. I don't want my leader to think it's acceptable to hurt people's feelings or just be ultimately mean or cruel just for the sake of being mean or cruel, because that's how you felt like you wanted to be in that moment. The president should be better. We should expect better from our leaders.
We should all be better.
Yeah.
That's my takeaway. But
I mean,
from this.
You're also asking, like with Gunn, like you're asking for someone who is doing a creative process to be creative, right? And that was why I was so taken aback by that. I was like, first off, he recognized that the jokes that he made were jokes, but that they're also in poor taste, and he felt bad about it.
He apologized years before, yeah.
It's like, but have you ever heard Trump be wrong or apologize about anything? Yeah. That's a physical impossibility, right? Yeah. How many times have you lived your life for a year perfectly where you didn't do anything wrong or make a mistake or say something you weren't supposed to say? This is ridiculous. This is completely ridiculous that we have this double down mentality in Washington. It's just absurd. And honestly, it's like a self-serving cycle where, like, the more he does it, the more radical the base gets, the more he's like, I can't back down from anything now, so I have to double down on anything. And it's like absurd, right? And it also doesn't help to paint the other picture that Matt Damon goes on SNL and immediately makes a mockery and a joke out of Brett Kavanaugh, and then takes all of the importance of the, in my opinion, I think that was a mistake. I think I
didn't see this.
He went on and he did Brett Kavanaugh that Saturday, and he got really angry, and it was about beer and the Devil's Triangle and all this stuff, and it made a meme out of it the next day. And I'm like, I don't know if that's necessarily the right tactic, right? Because then that shows anyone that may have had a different perspective on the other side that we're just gonna fucking boil this down to the basest comedic elements,
right?
And I just don't know. Like, I love SNL, don't get me wrong, but I question how much they've actually been able, how much good they've done versus how much bad they've done in the past few years. And with Kavanaugh, I'm like, it's just such a weird, surreal world we live in where I go on Instagram and the next day it's like a Kavanaugh beer shirt. And I'm like, what the fuck is happening? This shit has real world ramifications. And we're all looking at it like it's entertainment. And I just don't know. And again, I think that does come from Saturday Night Live. And that does come from a lot of the media of like, they're making money off this shit. And I'm torn because I think on the one hand, I'm like, it's hilarious and it's great satire. But on the other hand, I'm like, is it doing what satire is supposed to do, which is make both sides think? Like, satire is not just supposed to be like a money grab or like, or everyone's going to be funny. It's supposed to say something and like actually make people's perspectives like broaden a little bit with this. And I don't know if we're doing that these days. And I say we because I try to do that when I go up on stage too. Sure. Fail miserably. Sure. But
I mean, we all do it on all these shows, right?
That's what we're supposed to be doing, right? Is when I say, when we're entertaining people, we're supposed to be adding to their lives, not necessarily detracting from it. So I don't know. It's just a weird world we live in right now.
Exactly. And I think social media is a part of it. That's what we're talking about, right? Where it is that fucking heartbreaking mashup of on Saturday, right? When this happened, when they confirmed him, right? Like the women in my life who I follow on things who are sexual assault victims, right? Or survivors probably is a better way to say it. Talking about like, I have to cancel my plans and step away from everything today. I can't fucking deal with it. I can't believe this happening. Mashed up with someone tweeting about a soccer match or me putting on an Assassin's Creed screenshot, or you know what I mean? It's like, it's this weird thing where I love social media and I think it gets a bad rap a lot of times, but then it is this interesting, weird fucking mashup of similar to what I always talk about with the news cycles, right? And I always go back to that Ferguson episode with us where I was so fucking angry at the end of it. And I was like, it just doesn't matter because next week something else is going to happen. The week after that, there's always going to be another thing to get us away from actually ever focusing on something, right? Yeah. And it's what you're talking about too. Like the Matt Damon thing makes it goes from, oh, ha ha ha, like, or it's like, holy shit, this is a serious thing. This guy got a bad guy is doing something bad, to, oh, now it's just a joke. And then now it's Sunday and football's on. Oh, fuck, now it's you know what I mean? You get away from that outrage you have. And I think that's what you see everybody right now with the, hey, fucking make sure you're registered to vote is, hey, you were mad about something in the last year and a half. Fucking make sure you're registered to vote so you can change that, so you can be a part of this, so you can do one way or the other. Whoever, we actually act like we all had a say in this.
Yeah. And I think, just that's the thing though. Like I don't want to be too overcritical of like an SNL. I feel bad
fuck you, Lorne Michaels.
That. Because I do think they've done a lot of good, and I do think that's important. And I think that's an important medium for people to like experience these things through and to kind of see a different perspective on it. And I do think comedy has its place of like taking this thing out of things so you can broach the topic without having the enormity of it, like collapse on top of you.
Like a dying star.
Like a dying star, forged in the heart of a dying star. But. Yeah, I think that this one feels like a loss, like an L. Yeah. And we got to get back out there and fight again. We don't have a chance. We don't have a choice. If anyone's feels like this was not a good thing, then we got to do something about it. And that's the importance.
It's a great point. Make sure you register to vote one way or the other, so everybody's represented.
Rock the vote.
And you, Amy Gilroy, don't try to vote over here.
And right. You know what? If you can figure out a way to get
we need it to be fucking
similar
legal.
To how Greg tried to run for office in Canada.
You know what? We won't talk about that. This has been the Game Over Greggy show each and every week. 4, sometimes 2 best friends gather on this table, each bringing a random topic discussion for your amusement. If you like that, head over to patreon.com/kindafunny, where you can get each and every episode early, along with that pre and post show. Yeah, that's right. We're about to go even longer into the post show right now, live on patreon.com/kindafunny. And if you're watching later, that early access video that goes up every Friday for $10 has the pre and post show as well. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, it's been our pleasure to serve you. Thanks for watching the Game Over Greggy show, everybody. Remember, Cool Greg's the Gettys brother. That's the best brother. Up here, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. Down here, you can support us on Patreon. I don't really know where I'm gesturing. Over there, go to the other YouTube channel. It's all about games. And down there, go to a video of Cool Greg's choosing.